Chapter 1818. Huge difference at that moment. Other strong cultivators from the 9 great celestial castles were in the palace of the celestial kings of medicine too. They made no secret of their presence, so the palace of the celestial kings of medicine didn't prevent them from watching. No matter where those people were, at that moment, the members of the palace were just fixedly staring at the carriage. Who was inside? Old white-bearded dude back then. When I left the 9 great celestial castles, I told you that someday I'd come back to the palace of the celestial kings of medicine. I'm here now. A hoarse voice spoke up. It came from the carriage. The white-bearded emperor was stupefied. Of course, he remembered that time. The first time he had heard him say that, he didn't care. But the second time, he had remembered because he had shown how strong he was during the competition for the small worlds. Back then, he had thought that Lin Feng would probably pose a threat to them in 10 years. However, 10 years hadn't passed, and that arrogant young man was back already. The fog around the carriage slowly dispersed. The strong cultivators of the palace of the celestial kings of medicine stared at it as a group of people emerged. They were all young, but all of them looked extraordinary. The members of the palace of the celestial kings of medicine started shaking. As expected, it's you, Lin Feng, said the white-bearded old man fixedly staring at Lin Feng. The group of people jumped off the carriage and rose up into the air. All the members of the 9 great celestial castles could clearly see them. They were stupefied. Lin Feng was back, and he had recreated Tiantai in their buffer zone. When the crowd saw those people, they paid particular attention to their cultivation levels. Many people took a deep breath in relief. Those young people were all low-level emperors, and Lin Feng was still a Zoom cultivator. They couldn't pose a threat to the 9 great celestial castles at all. Of course, the crowd was more worried because of the people who were behind Lin Feng. Some of those people were already members of Tiantai back then. The one in cyan clothes is called Ho Qing Lin. That Buddhist monk is called Tian Qi. The one in golden clothes is Jun Mo Shi from the Celestial Palace of the Immortals. Those people there were enslaved by Celestial Qi Castle. When Tian Gu exclaimed at that moment, he understood why Lin Feng didn't like Celestial Qi Castle and the palace of the Celestial Kings of Medicine now. The strong cultivators of the palace of the Celestial Kings of Medicine were relieved as well. Lin Feng couldn't do anything against them. The white-bearded old man smiled coldly. You kept hiding. I thought you were a mysterious and incredible new group. In the end, you are a bunch of dropouts. And you're disappointing. You haven't even broken through to the Huang Qi layer. You might be stuck at the Zun Qi layer. Maybe you'll never break through to the Huang Qi layer. I overestimated you back then. Just call the incredible cultivators who came with you. You are well beneath our notice. Lin Feng looked at the white-bearded old man in a meaningful way and smiled. Don't be upset. And we are alone. You're alone. Another medium-level emperor couldn't believe it. Indeed. Only us. All the members of Tiantai are here. Lin Feng replied calmly. The strong cultivators of the palace of the celestial kings of medicine were astonished. And they weren't the only ones. Everybody was astonished. How did these people dare act so arrogantly? Lin Feng, how many talismans did you make to fight against us this time? Asked the white-bearded old man after remaining silent for a few seconds. Then he laughed. He hadn't forgotten about Lin Feng's talismans. He had used them to kill many emperors back then. Then he had also used deployment spells. His deployment spells were more powerful than his fighting abilities. You're a medium-level emperor and you're afraid of me. You're pathetic, said Lin Feng, taking a step forwards. He continued, these people are all my friends. Some of them were direct disciples in Tiantai. The others joined Tiantai later on. But our teachers are still the leaders of Tiantai. You know why we came to the palace of the celestial kings of medicine this time. We want to compare our strength with you. Lin Feng smiled and looked at the strong cultivators from the palace of the celestial kings of medicine. So many emperors. You're all so old, you look like old skeletons. Who wants to fight? How arrogant. The strong cultivators of the palace of the celestial kings of medicine looked at Lin Feng coldly. A low-level emperor jumped forwards. His cosmic energies were already level 8. He would definitely win. Bzzz. The old man moved like the wind and countless trees shot towards Tiantai. However, Tantai jumped up, cracking and shattering sounds erupted as lions roared. A terrifying energy rose up as the air distorted. The earth and sky started shaking violently. Lin Feng's brain was shaking, but he heard nothing. He had the sensation his blood was boiling. Loud voice assassination. Lin Feng frowned. He saw Tantai wave his hand. Millions of lions appeared in the air, but disappeared immediately. The strong cultivators of the palace of the celestial kings of medicine suddenly fell down onto their knees, in ear-splitting pain. Great invisible elephant. Tantai jumped up and raised his hand, immediately slapping down a strong cultivator of the palace of the celestial kings of medicine. The crowd was astonished, especially the strong cultivators of the palace of the celestial kings of medicine, their faces twisting in shock. What kind of strength was that? What were those attacks? Loud voice assassination? Great invisible elephant? There was absolutely no sound in the atmosphere. Everybody was totally silent. Many Zoom cultivators had started bleeding from the ears. Everyone was astonished. Old fools remain old fools. You're so weak. Lin Feng, those old dudes are pieces of trash. None of them should have the honor of fighting against us. Tantai spat out. The atmosphere was completely silent. He then slapped down another man. Something broke loudly, and the cultivator gave a horrible shriek as he crashed onto the ground and coughed up blood. The cultivators Lin Feng brought are terrifying, thought the shaken crowd. Even though Tantai was a low-level emperor, he was monstrously strong, an extraordinary character. Of course, Tantai wasn't proud. He just done what Lin Feng had told him to do. He knew that Tiantai wasn't all that strong, but these people were just too weak. Their ancient scriptures, skills, and techniques were weak. They couldn't compare themselves with such weaklings. These people would probably never study great imperial scriptures. That's the guy who injured Yu Chun. Jin Shenjun told Qi Yin Lin. Jin Shenjun hadn't thought that Lin Feng would really come. He remembered Lin Feng perfectly. Of course, some people remembered Lin Feng even more. Emperor Dong and Emperor Qi, when they saw Lin Feng, hatred exploded in their hearts. Because of Lin Feng, their lives had become miserable. Emperor Dong had lost an arm, and there was Qi Qianxing too. Surprisingly, Lin Feng was back. They needed to get their revenge. You brought some incredible cultivators, the white-bearded emperor said coldly. Tantai could even pose a threat to medium-level emperors. They couldn't clearly see how strong Lin Feng's friends were. Low-level emperors couldn't fight against them at all. Tantai, move away. Those people don't dare come closer while you're here, Lin Feng said with a cheeky grin. Tantai laughed and moved back. Lin Feng smiled at Qing Feng. Qing Feng, do you want to try? Qing Feng nodded and moved forward like a gust of wind. Surprisingly, this time Lin Feng had sent a woman. The members of the palace of the celestial kings of medicine didn't dare underestimate her. The white-bearded old man looked at another senior and said, "You go." "All right," acknowledged the old man, releasing powerful cosmic energies. His cosmic energies were already level 9. "I'm going to attack," Qing Feng informed him calmly. Then she suddenly disappeared into the wind. The old man's face changed as a gloomy forest appeared around him. Bzzz. Fire suddenly appeared and burned the trees. The old man retreated quickly. "Slow," shouted Qing Feng, and everything slowed down abruptly. A beam of light appeared, and the old man's face turned deathly pale. A gigantic pair of wings crashed against him and blood splashed. The old man shrieked and was blasted away. One of his arms fell down from the sky without him. Qing Feng moved back to Lin Feng. The crowd only saw a light beam moving. Emperors looked so weak before these people, thought the watchers when they saw the strong cultivator of the palace of the celestial kings of medicine look so weak. Why were the low-level emperors of Tiantai so strong? Chapter 18-19. Responsibility. Several sorts of cosmic energies. She used 4 sorts of cosmic energies, thought the observers, looking at Qing Feng. She was so beautiful and so strong. She wasn't any weaker than the massive Tantai. The crowd then looked at Lin Feng's friends. Were they all that strong? If that was the case, then the situation looked bad. But of course, the members of the palace of the celestial kings of medicine were the ones who were the most surprised. If all their low-level emperors continued fighting, they'd all suffer crushing defeats. They already understood that at the same level, they couldn't do much against Lin Feng's friends. At that moment, Tianqi walked forwards and put his palms together, releasing golden energies. He looked like a Buddha. However, this time, the strong cultivators of the palace of the celestial kings of medicine looked at Tianqi and remained silent. Nobody dared face Tianqi. The white-bearded emperor looked at Tianqi coldly. Lin Feng told me that our teacher begged for help, but you humiliated him back then. You even stole his treasures. You were very arrogant. And now you don't dare come and fight? Asked Tianqi. Even though he was a Buddhist cultivator, he could also be very aggressive. Those watching shivered, their hearts pounding in their chests. The strong cultivators of the palace of the celestial kings of medicine now had to face them, because of that one moment of arrogance. The palace of the celestial kings of medicine was being humiliated by that teacher's disciples. They had come to avenge their teacher. How ridiculous! You should leave now. Otherwise, the palace of the celestial kings of medicine will stop being polite to you, said the white-bearded old man coldly. What the old man meant was that they were going to send medium-level emperors if Lin Feng and his friends didn't leave. Tianqi understood that too. He smiled coldly and said, "Today, whether we do one-on-ones or a group battle, we won't stop battling. Don't try and find excuses. You're shameless and ignorant. You came to the palace of the celestial kings of medicine to provoke us. Since it's that way, Yao Chen, go and crush him. Teach him respect," ordered the white-bearded emperor coldly. A medium-level emperor jumped up. The crowd was surprised. The palace of the celestial kings of medicine was now sending medium-level emperors for real. However, Tianqi just stood there fearlessly. He was long since prepared. Kids dare act that arrogantly and insolently nowadays, spat Yao Chen. What cosmic strength surrounded Tianqi, turning into vines which sought to bind Tianqi. However, Tianqi looked totally serene. He was surrounded by golden lights that were becoming more and more dazzling. He also chanted mantras in a clear and melodious, pure and deep, far-reaching Brahma voice. The image of an ancient Buddha appeared behind him. Yao Chen jumped forwards, his hands turning into sharp wooden sticks. The wood energies about them were extremely sharp like blades. Indestructible body. Buddha lights invaded the atmosphere and stopped the wood energies. Gold strength was extremely hard. However, Yao Chen groaned coldly and turned into a bestial tree. Tianqi was surrounded by sharp wood energies which pierced through his golden lights. Tianqi continued chanting in that imposing Brahma voice. He gradually turned into a second Buddha, then a third and a fourth. And then they all merged into one gigantic ancient and indestructible Buddha. Tianqi's chants never stopped. The gigantic Buddha descended from the sky and pressed down on Yao Chen. How could a pitiful low-level emperor defy my cosmic energies? I'm a medium-level emperor, snarled Yao Chen coldly, turning into countless vines. His sharpened wood energies moved towards the Buddha energies. However, they all broke apart. More vines rose up in the air. The ground was shaking, but Tianqi's voice only grew louder and louder. His Buddha surrounded the trees, shocking Yao Chen. Tianqi was too strong. The crowd around them was stupefied. Even though Yao Chen wasn't a very strong medium-level emperor, he was still a medium-level emperor, his cultivation level much higher than Tianqi's. But it didn't seem to matter in this battle. Tianqi's fighting abilities were incredible. Those watching were astonished. They had rarely seen such strong cultivators. I understand why those people didn't want to leave Tiantai after joining, whispered Xia Tianfan to himself. His eyes were twinkling. His skills were already very powerful. The celestial summer castle had some great ones. However, Tianqi's fighting abilities were beyond terrifying, far beyond the skills he had learned. Tiantai's disciples come from the small world. In the continent of the 9 clouds, they are afraid of nobody. They are very determined, and only think of cultivation. Nothing can influence them. The geniuses of the 9 great celestial castles, even if they are talented, aren't determined enough. They have no ambition. They all hope they'll join Qingdi Mountain, and that's all. After becoming strong enough in Qingdi Mountain, they sometimes try to travel and become stronger, but it takes them many, many years. In the 9 great celestial castles, everybody wanted to become Qingdi Mountain's disciples. It was one of their main goals. But once they were in Qingdi Mountain, what then? While they were comfortably practicing cultivation in Qingdi Mountain, Lin Feng and his friends had traveled over thousands of kilometers. They had their own paths. I want to become stronger. I have to leave. I can't stay here anymore. I have to forget everything. I have to choose my own path and start all over, thought Xia Tianfan with a sigh. He suddenly felt much more relaxed. How many people had the same thoughts as him? Many people were happy to stay here. They were basically living in a prison they made for themselves. At that moment, the battle ended. Tianqi's sentient being's Buddhist enlightenment attack had oppressed the medium-level emperor and crushed him to death. Tianqi had killed a medium-level emperor. You want to die, said the white-bearded emperor coldly. Some strong cultivators around him suddenly started running forwards and releasing cosmic energies. The strong cultivators of the palace of the celestial kings of medicine lunged towards Tianqi. Tiantai wanted to attack, but Lin Feng prevented him from going and said, "It's about Tiantai's direct disciples today. The other brothers don't need to get involved." As Lin Feng talked, Ho Qing Lin had already started running forward and releasing Azura reincarnation strength. 2 cultivators died instantly. People's hearts pounded. One sword lacerated 2 emperors. Ho Qing Lin hadn't shown how strong he was before, but the crowd could see it now. Ban Rua, Xingzhan, and Li Hen also attacked. They were also the emperor's direct disciples. They had to help. 5 low-level emperors are killing the emperors of the palace of the celestial kings of medicine. Are they insane? Lin Feng prevented some other people from fighting. Ho Qing Lin and Tianqi continued running forwards. Ho Qing Lin released reincarnation sword energies, which blotted out the sky, threatening to devour it. Tianqi's Buddha lights illuminated heaven and earth. Ban Rua stayed behind them, as he was weaker. At that moment, Lin Feng also stepped forwards and looked at the white-bearded old man coldly. I won't kill you, but back then, you humiliated my teacher. You have to pay back, but 100 times more. The white-bearded old man looked back at Lin Feng emotionlessly. He was shaking inside. A Zoom cultivator was talking to him like that, and was scaring him. Die! Shouted a strong cultivator at that moment, charging towards Lin Feng. At the moment when the crowd thought Lin Feng was going to attack, someone else attacked him by surprise. However, Lin Feng didn't move. The strong cultivator's attack immediately struck Lin Feng. The crowd was speechless and dumbstruck. Lin Feng didn't even move? However, very quickly they realized they were wrong. Lin Feng raised his hand and grabbed that cultivator's head. He raised the man's head, who only saw 2 ice-cold pupils glaring back at him. Boom! An explosion rang out and cosmic energies dispersed. The cultivator's skull had exploded, and his headless corpse fell from the sky. People's hearts were racing madly. Lin Feng could kill emperors so easily? It seemed so simple for him. Chapter 1820, Slaughtering Zunqi Lair? Everybody was astonished. Lin Feng had come back, and he had come back with some extremely strong people in Tiantai's disciples. Lin Feng looked like he only had the strength of the Zunqi Lair. Had he hidden his cultivation level? A low-level emperor couldn't injure him with his physical strength, thought the shaken crowd. Qi rose to the skies, purple threads flowing through it. The tank rose up into the air. Lin Feng slowly walked towards a medium-level emperor. A low-level emperor, who was trying to block the way, was crushed by the purple tank and basically disappeared. On his left side, another strong cultivator attacked Lin Feng. But Lin Feng suddenly turned around and looked at that cultivator with his pitch-black eyes, attacking his will. He released his godly awareness, and that person had the sensation he was going to die. Lin Feng slapped him. Culpa strength rolled out and crushed that cultivator, who couldn't withstand a single attack. Low-level emperors can't even take a single attack from him, thought the members of Celestial Qi Castle. Lin Feng and his friends were terrifyingly strong. They posed a definite threat. In the crowd were many of Lin Feng's old friends, such as Wen Tiange, Xia Tianfan, and so on. When they saw Lin Feng fight like that, their hearts were filled with ambition and ardor, and their blood was boiling. Lin Feng had become so strong he could easily crush low-level emperors. Everybody understood that at the same level, nobody could compete with him anymore. The most astonishing part was that Ho Ching Lin and Tian Qi were equally terrifying. Ho Ching Lin's reincarnation energies and Tian Qi's Buddha energies could easily crush low-level emperors as well. Medium-level emperors couldn't compete with them, either. Tian Qi had already crushed another medium-level emperor and 2 low-level emperors. Ho Ching Lin had studied the celestial evolution holy scriptures a lot. They were incredibly powerful. Even Ho Ching Lin was surprised when studying them. Reincarnation shadows appeared. The earth and the sky turned into a wheel of reincarnation. Inside the wheel of reincarnation, Azura energies crushed people drawn into it. Just now, dangerous cosmic energies had dispersed. A medium-level emperor had fallen just like that. Ho Ching Lin had condensed a normal sword, and then reincarnation inside it. Even though Ban Ruo, Li Hen, and Xingzhan weren't as strong as Ho Ching Lin and Tian Qi, they also had particular powers, and they had practiced cultivation really hard on Yaoyi Island. They had also traveled a lot, so they had lots of experience. Therefore, cultivators of the same level in the palace of the celestial kings of medicine couldn't compete with them, either. The crowd watched the battle as stones exploded and dust kept rising. Canyons appeared in the ground, and palaces exploded. 6 cultivators from Tiantai were slaughtering all of them. The low-level emperors of Tiantai could easily oppress medium-level emperors of the palace of the celestial kings of medicine. Lin Feng landed in front of a medium-level emperor and released immortal energy. He looked like a death god. The medium-level emperor's heart was pounding as lightning descended from the sky. Lin Feng punched out at him, making heaven and earth shake. He had never had that feeling. He was afraid of someone who wasn't even a low-level emperor. Lin Feng condensed destructive immortal energy. The purple tank slammed down, and the medium-level emperor finally exploded and died. Lin Feng looked at the white-bearded emperor who hadn't moved. Lin Feng sneered at him arrogantly and said, "What? Your Excellency, you don't even dare fight?" The white-bearded emperor's heart was pounding. He watched the scene, unable to calm down. Lin Feng had become so strong. He had never thought Lin Feng would become so strong. He hadn't thought that a Tiantai would appear either. He hadn't thought that a group of terrifying young people would come to their territory and rebuild their sect here. Even though they were only low-level emperors, they could already kill medium-level emperors. And Lin Feng even controlled immortal energies. Back then when I left, I told you I'd come back to the palace of the celestial kings of medicine. Now, I want you to kneel down and prostrate yourself 300 times. If you do, I won't kill you. Lin Feng promised emotionlessly. The white-bearded emperor's face turned red in fury. He was a medium-level emperor of the palace of the celestial kings of medicine. Could he prostrate himself 300 times before a Zoom cultivator? And one much younger than him on top of that? You're young. Be merciful. You're in the palace of the celestial kings of medicine, our territory. The white-bearded emperor replied cautiously. He was trying to threaten Lin Feng. Many young people from Tiantai hadn't even attacked yet, and he knew that the palace couldn't win. If you had been merciful, today wouldn't have happened. You humiliated my teacher. You're worse than an animal. Spat Lin Feng, aggressively releasing energies. He looked like a death god. The white-bearded emperor was staring at Lin Feng. Behind him, a strange tree had appeared. Most descendants of the palace of the celestial kings of medicine had a tree spirit and controlled with cosmic energy. Lin Feng watched him coldly, his expression frozen. He took a few steps forwards, releasing wind cosmic energy. He landed in front of the elder and released sword energy. The white-bearded emperor sensed the energy approaching and had the impression he was going to suffocate from the pressure. Dazzling lights pierced through his eyes, and he started feeling extremely hot, as if he had started to burn. He used his tree spirit to protect himself. His hands turned into vines, but the vines immediately broke apart, shredded by the sword lights. Lin Feng's sword energies were heavy. He was using 3 sorts of sword meaning. The white-bearded emperor's heart was pounding violently in pain. He shouted furiously, and a forest appeared. At that moment, the 4th sword moved towards him and descended from the sky. It looked like an undying shooting star as it streaked across the sky, full of immortal intent. He didn't have time to release strength anymore, and didn't know what to do. However, Lin Feng stopped and looked at him. Then, he moved invisibly quickly towards the white-bearded emperor at full speed. The emperor was struggling to protect himself from the fourth sword attack. Lin Feng raised his hands, thunder boomed, and Lin Feng smashed into him. Bones cracked loudly, and the emperor fell down softly. Even though he was a medium-level emperor, his physical body didn't even have the strength of a low-level emperor. Lin Feng could easily pound on him. The white-bearded emperor tried to roar in outrage as he raised his head weakly. A gigantic hand crashed down onto his head, pushing him into the ground, where Lin Feng slammed his foot down onto the man's face. The emperor was furious from humiliation and released more cosmic energies. However, Lin Feng continued slapping him. Lin Feng was humiliating an old medium-level emperor, as if he were an ordinary old man. More bone-breaking sounds rose, and the old man screamed horribly. He could die anytime. His organs were severely damaged. That's not a battle anymore, that's a massacre, thought the crowd. Lin Feng had stopped attacking, but he could have crushed the old man, who was forced to kneel down. Tiantai hadn't come to battle. They had come to humiliate the palace of the celestial kings of medicine, who had humiliated their teacher. Ho Qing Lin and the others crushed the strong cultivators of the palace of the celestial kings of medicine. Nobody would dare offend them after that. The strong cultivators of the palace of the celestial kings of medicine looked so weak next to them. "Stop," said someone at that moment. The crowd was startled at the sudden intrusion. Two strong cultivators came charging over. One of them came from the palace of the leader of the palace of the celestial kings of medicine, and the other one had traveled from the great celestial palace of thoughtfulness. He wasn't from the great celestial palace of thoughtfulness, of course. The one who had just shouted was a cultivator from Qingdi Mountain. Chapter 1821. Important Decisions at Celestial Wind Castle. The leader came out personally to greet the guests. He came out of his palace and saw Emperor Anai Chun and Wen Aofeng standing there. He greeted them politely. "Brother Anai Chun, it's an honor to see you here." "Brother Wen, no need to be so polite. I came regarding the mysterious group Tiantai. Since they suddenly appeared here, I took Aofeng out, and we're having a look," said Anai Chun. He liked to pamper Wen Aofeng, who was his favorite disciple. Wen Aofeng had broken through to the Huangqi layer before Yi Sheng, Qi Yuchun, and Zhou Tianrua, so he was really talented. Now he was going to become a medium-level emperor soon. And even in Qingdi Mountain, there weren't many people like him. Wen Aofeng would be as strong as him before his 100th birthday. He also liked Yi Sheng, but there was still a big difference between Wen Aofeng and Yi Sheng. Indeed, Tiantai is really mysterious. They went to the palace of the medicinal kings today. Some blood will be shed. The leader of Celestial Wind Castle smiled. Many of their people had gone there to watch. "I know. I came here because Yi Sheng came back. He took a group of people from Qingdi Mountain there. Tiantai won't cause too much trouble," said Anai Chun confidently. He didn't mind too much either. Since Qingdi Mountain went there, Tiantai won't dare cause trouble, I would guess, said the leader of Celestial Wind Castle to Emperor Anai Chun with a smile. However, at that moment, someone appeared in the distance. When that person saw Emperor Anai Chun, they were surprised and bowed to him. "Emperor Anai Chun." "No need to be polite," said Emperor Anai Chun affably. That person raised their head and looked to the sect leader, who said, "There is no harm in saying what one thinks. Leader, we now know who Tiantai's people are. They are old friends," said that person. The sect leader looked surprised. "Old friends," he repeated. "Leader." An obstinate and unruly young man appeared during the competition for the small worlds. And then Emperor Shen Yu came and took him away. 3 years later, he came back and pretended to be a deployment spellcaster. Remember? "Lin Feng," said Wen Aofeng first. The sect leader of Celestial Wind Castle didn't remember Lin Feng, but Wen Aofeng did. Emperor Anai Chun remembered Lin Feng as well. He had lost face because of Lin Feng. Emperor Shen Yu had provoked and humiliated him back then. They had also agreed to make their disciples battle at some point. The last time he had seen Lin Feng, people from Yaoyi Island had come and protected him. They had also humiliated him. Of course he remembered that. So how is it going? Asked the leader of Celestial Wind Castle. Tiantai's cultivators don't have high cultivation levels. They are all young low-level emperors. Lin Feng said that they didn't have any stronger cultivators, but I don't know if it's true or not. I came back to inform you of these things, responded that person. He was only a messenger. Influential groups all had them. Ao Feng, we have to go, said Emperor Nai Chun, smiling at Wen Ao Feng. Lin Feng was acting recklessly. He had dared come back. Yes, teacher, nodded Wen Ao Feng. Emperor Nai Chun gazed into the distance coldly. He hadn't seen Lin Feng for a few years, so Lin Feng had probably become a lot stronger. If he dared use a deployment spell against Wen Ao Feng, he would regret it. At the palace of the medicinal kings, Yi Sheng had just arrived. He was known as one of Emperor Nai Chen's disciples. Yi Sheng, and those people are much stronger than the white-bearded emperor and his friends, thought the crowd quietly, studying the fighters. These people could pose a threat to Tiantai. Yi Sheng and the others landed on the ground and looked around at all the corpses. Lin Feng had his foot on the white-bearded emperor's face. They looked at him icily. What a humiliation! Lin Feng, shouted Yi Sheng. This was the young man Lin Feng had defeated back then. Pull your dirty foot away. Yi Sheng demanded icily. Lin Feng slowly turned his head and looked at Yi Sheng. Yi Sheng was quite strong, and there were many medium-level emperors with him. He probably had a high position in Qingdi Mountain. Who are you talking to? Said Lin Feng, calmly yet disdainfully. Pull your dirty foot away. Yi Sheng ordered again. He was getting furious. The white-bearded old man was his grandfather, and Lin Feng had his foot on his face. He couldn't bear the humiliation. Wu, slap him, Lin Feng said to Wu. Wu's eyes glittered with cold lights. He was angry at Lin Feng inside. This bastard kept giving him orders. But he had no choice for now. Someday, the situation would change. Wu looked at Yi Sheng, his eyes sharp. Whoosh! A strong wind started blowing, and a golden crow illusion appeared behind Wu. It streaked across the sky like a shooting star, its speed terrifying to behold. Yi Sheng looked at Wu's eyes. The icy energies which burned in Wu's eyes pierced through Yi Sheng's pupils painfully. He jumped forwards, releasing qi. As he raised his hand, however, a strong wind brushed against him, cutting into his skin. Be careful, shouted some people behind him. Wu turned into a beam of light and returned to where he was initially with a single flap of his wings. Somewhere in the middle of his motion, a gigantic hand had crashed onto Yi Sheng's face painfully, and his face went numb. That's the golden crow illusion, thought the crowd, staring at Wu. He was a terrifyingly fast animal cultivator. Sun's supernatural bird, a three-legged golden crow. The crowd shivered. Yi Sheng was a cultivator from Qingdi Mountain and had just been slapped. His cheeks burned with the humiliation of being seen. Lin Feng looked at him disdainfully and said nothing. He turned back to the white-bearded old man, his foot still on the elder's face. He drew his foot back and said, Kneel down before all the cultivators of Tiantai and prostrate yourself 300 times. Only then will we not kill you. You are now the enemies of the palace of the medicinal kings and Qingdi Mountain. You must have a death wish, said the strong cultivator from the palace of the medicinal kings, icily releasing a terrifying qi. However, Lin Feng didn't pay them any heed. He just grabbed the desperate white-bearded emperor. Lin Feng smiled coldly and said, Don't beg other people for help. Today nobody can save you. Let him off, it's an order, demanded the strong cultivators from Qingdi Mountain. Lin Feng looked proud and arrogant, making them even more furious. They had even slapped Yi Sheng, which was a humiliation for Qingdi Mountain. Stop barking, little dog. Tiantai spat aggressively. We are Qingdi Mountain's people, said a medium-level emperor icily. You dare offend Qingdi Mountain? Lin Feng, is Qingdi Mountain a powerful group? Asked Tiantai doubtfully. Lin Feng turned his head, looking at Tiantai and the others, and smiled. They think they're strong. That guy is crazy, he dares humiliate Qingdi Mountain, thought the crowd, caught between fear and delight. The strong cultivators from the palace of the medicinal kings and Qingdi Mountain were all around the Tiantai members and started releasing oppressive energies. The white-bearded emperor had hope, but Lin Feng only held him more firmly, and the old man shrieked. "Try if you dare," said a strong cultivator from the palace of the medicinal kings, releasing a powerful qi, which quickly surrounded Lin Feng. Wu Jun Mo Shi, Qing Feng Tantai, Qin Wu and the others finally moved and surrounded Lin Feng. A bunch of low-level emperors were now facing medium-level emperors. "If anyone dares come any closer, we'll kill you," said Lin Feng easily, as terrifying lights appeared. The strong cultivators from the palace of the medicinal kings and Qingdi Mountain would die if they continued getting closer. "Kill all the people from Tiantai. That's an order from Qingdi Mountain," shouted the strong cultivators of Qingdi Mountain, furiously releasing formidable qi as they charged ahead. A hurricane formed as all the energies clashed violently. Chapter 1822. Helping your disciple. This was Qingdi Mountain's territory. In case of danger, Qingdi Mountain was in charge of protecting the area. Tiantai hadn't only humiliated the palace of the medicinal kings, they had also humiliated Qingdi Mountain. Qingdi Mountain couldn't accept such humiliation. Many people were watching them. Qingdi Mountain had already given the order to kill all the cultivators from Tiantai. However, apart from the people who were already fighting, nobody else attacked. The other members of the 9 great celestial castles just watched. Tiantai's cultivators were crazy. Why would they want to face them? An order from Qingdi Mountain? When Lin Feng heard that, he said coldly, "From now on, this territory is beyond the control of Qingdi Mountain." Then, he put his foot on the white-bearded emperor's face again and stomped on him, crushing his bones. The old man fell back to the ground. He was lying on the ground and staring up at Lin Feng, his eyes filled with painful memories. He remembered back then, when Emperor Yu was carrying Lin Feng on his back and begging him. He had humiliated Emperor Yu and made him kneel down. He had even stolen his treasures without giving him anything in return, telling them to leave. He hadn't even looked at the young man Emperor Yu was carrying on his back. However, that young man was now in front of him, stomping on his face. He had never thought such a thing would ever happen, especially this quickly. "Back then, you humiliated my teacher. You have to pay for that," said Lin Feng, putting his foot on the other man's face again. The white-bearded old man was wailing mournfully, and tears appeared in his eyes. He had practiced cultivation for such a long time, and now he was being humiliated. He was scared and sad. He looked miserable. Emperor Yu had knelt down in front of him, as if Emperor Yu had been a dog, and now this had happened. Many medium-level emperors who were watching the scene felt sad for him. What a nightmare. It was better to be dead than having to go through that. The people from Celestial Qi Castle, Emperor Dong, Emperor Qi and so on, were dumbstruck. They couldn't believe it. Only a few years had passed, and the young man they used to chase everywhere had become so strong. Ho Qinglin and Tian Qi were also incredible cultivators. Tiantai's direct disciples were extremely strong. They hadn't only amazed the small world, they were amazing in the great world too. Ho Qinglin released reincarnation energies. Tian Qi released dazzling Buddha lights. Qing Feng released several sorts of cosmic energies. Wu was a strong beast releasing burning sun cosmic energies. Tantai and Qin Wu looked crazy. Lions kept roaring. An ancient cauldron oppressed heaven and earth. Jun Mo Shi used health skills. These cultivators were amazing. Where are they from? Wondered many people. These people were incredible fighters. Lin Feng raised his hand. A purple tank appeared and started vibrating. It contained seemingly endless immortal strength. However, it didn't fall down. Lin Feng continued waving his hand, and holy dazzling lights winked on. The energies became even more oppressive. "Brothers!" shouted Lin Feng. Everybody looked at him. They understood what he meant. Ho Qinglin and Tian Qi turned into a million illusions. They were everywhere in the sky. Tantai and Jun Mo Shi protected the area, lions and gloomy strength warding them. Qing Feng and Wu were there too. Who would dare attack? "Go!" shouted a strong cultivator from Qingdi Mountain. When the others heard him shout, they took action too. Dong! Lin Feng's purple tank turned into a million's tanks, their aura pressing down on everyone. Immortal energy floated in the air as he released his wind power, further powering up his tanks. At the same time, Tiantai's people also released powerful energies. The scene was incredible. A river of reincarnation energies flowed through the air. Millions of hands streaked across the sky. A bunch of lions ran in the sky. It's apocalyptic. The crowd was astonished, their hearts pounding at the sight. The immortal tanks looked terrifying. All sorts of strength was condensing in the air. A strong wind was brushing against those strong cultivators' bodies and corroding them. Cosmic strength dispersed, a soul shouted furiously. Surprisingly, many souls started leaving their bodies, but Tiantai's people wouldn't let them off. Ho Ching Lin's sword energies invaded the atmosphere, and the souls fell down into reincarnation vortexes. Winning meant nothing anymore. This was a war. The white-bearded old man was even more desperate. The strong cultivators of Qingdi Mountain and the palace of the medicinal kings were getting crushed. Tiantai's people wanted to change everything in the 9 great celestial castles. Call all the leaders. The white-bearded old man tried to shout, but his voice wasn't loud at all. He hoped people would come and help. They couldn't do anything against Tiantai anymore. Tiantai's people are really strong. If the leaders of the 9 great celestial castles don't show up, they'll destroy the 9 great celestial castles, thought the watchers. However, they were still wondering why Tiantai's people dared act like this. Even though they were really strong, they couldn't possibly take over the territory. After all, they couldn't fight against high-level emperors. And now they had even offended Qingdi Mountain. By the time Emperor Enai Chun and when Ao Feng finally arrived, the battle was already over. The strong cultivators of Qingdi Mountain and the palace of the medicinal kings were either dead or badly injured. Tiantai could kill them all if they wanted. At that moment, the people from Tiantai were on the ground. The white-bearded old man of the palace of the medicinal kings was on his knees again. That humiliation was horrible. Being dead would have been better. He now understood what he had made Emperor Yu go through. Asshole. When Enai Chun landed, the strong cultivators of Qingdi Mountain, who were still alive, gathered next to him. Yi Sheng said, "Teacher, we have to kill them. They killed almost all of our friends." Enai Chun was furious. He hadn't thought that the situation would be so tragic. Qingdi Mountain had lost many people. Of the 9 great celestial castles, Qingdi Mountain was the leader. For them, a bunch of young low-level emperors was important to their future. "Where are the cultivators of Yaoyi Island?" asked Emperor Enai Chun icily. "Yaoyi Island? You want to be like last time, when you looked as scared as a stray cur," mocked Lin Feng. Enai Chun released his godly awareness. Indeed, there was nobody from Yaoyi Island present. He was surprised. "You're self-confident because of your deployment spells, it seems. I'll give you a chance though. Fight against Ao Feng. If you win, I'll let you live. If you lose, everyone who contributed to killing the members of Qingdi Mountain will die." Enai Chun was in the sky, looking quite dignified. Of course, he thought Lin Feng had relied on deployment spells. Otherwise, how could a low-level emperor have killed so many strong cultivators? He was very strong, but his strength was limited. The opportunity Enai Chun gave to Lin Feng referred to his agreement with Emperor Xinyu. He knew perfectly well how strong Wen Ao Feng was. He could easily defeat medium-level emperors. "We will all die." Wu looked at him icily. A trivial high-level emperor dared talk to him like that? That old dude is acting recklessly. Wu was furious. Enai Chun looked at him icily. "You're from Yaoyi Island?" "Yaoyi Island?" Flames of fury burned in his eyes. He said icily, "Who do you think you are to talk to me? Piss off." Enai Chun was astonished. He was a high-level emperor of Qingdi Mountain, and a low-level emperor dared talk to him like this? He had never met a low-level emperor like this before. Lin Feng was just smiling and watching him. Enai Chun didn't know where Wu was from. A trivial high-level emperor dared talk to him like that? Even in vast celestial ancient city, great emperors didn't necessarily talk to Wu that way. Lin Feng walked forwards and slowly rose up in the air. He said to Enai Chun, "You little dog, you want me to fight against your disciple? You're really funny." The crowd didn't understand why Lin Feng acted that crazy. And Wu, how come he dared tell Enai Chun to piss off? Lin Feng even dared call Enai Chun a little dog. These young people were truly strange. "When I came here, Uncle Xinyu reminded me of the agreement. I don't mind helping your disciple become stronger," said Lin Feng with a dark smile. Ni Chun and Wen Ao Feng were furious. Wen Ao Feng had the same level as Lin Feng, and Lin Feng dared say he was going to help him? Chapter 1823. Army's Emperor Ni Chun is going to come a cropper, thought the crowd. They had seen how strong Lin Feng was. Even though Wen Ao Feng was Emperor Ni Chun's direct disciple, he couldn't compete with Lin Feng. The most surprising thing was that nobody warned Emperor Ni Chun. Even Yi Sheng and the strong cultivators from Qingdi Mountain, who had been injured, didn't warn Emperor Ni Chun. They are doing it on purpose because they want Emperor Ni Chun to hate Lin Feng, thought the crowd in the distance. If Lin Feng killed Wen Ao Feng, Ni Chun would be furious and kill Lin Feng. Lin Feng looked at Wen Ao Feng calmly, his robe fluttering in the wind. Wen Ao Feng released his strength, moving forwards and watching Lin Feng closely. He felt humiliated by what Lin Feng had said. Help him become stronger. Wen Ao Feng, Ni Chun is a little dog, and you're his direct disciple. Our battle has been planned for a long time. However, I don't want to humiliate you. If you want to give up, then just forget about it, Lin Feng said to Wen Ao Feng calmly. Wen Ao Feng looked at him coldly and said, "Empty words. You don't respect my teacher. I have to teach you a good lesson." Emperor Ni Chun was furious. Lin Feng kept calling him a little dog. No matter what, Lin Feng had to die today. Terrifying cosmic energies surrounded Wen Ao Feng. He jumped forwards and turned into many illusions. Many Wen Ao Feng's illusions charged towards Lin Feng. A powerful vortex appeared. The watchers frowned. Wen Ao Feng was indeed extremely strong. His efforts were futile, however. Lin Feng released cosmic energies and quickly formed 2 layers of armor, one of demon strength and one made of earth energy. Space distorted around him, and he vanished into the wind. Fists raced towards Lin Feng. Explosive impacts rang out. His armors broke apart, and Wen Ao Feng appeared in front of Lin Feng. His fist shot towards Lin Feng. Lin Feng groaned. He sensed empty space and destructive cosmic energies penetrated into his body. However, he quickly blocked them, looked at Wen Ao Feng and smiled widely. Wen Ao Feng looked back at him icily. He condensed more cosmic energies, about to use a spell. How could Lin Feng be smiling? Wen Ao Feng was furious. "Not bad," said Lin Feng, smiling indifferently. "Unfortunately, your teacher is a little dog, and because of him, you're not enjoying your capacities to the fullest." Lin Feng raised his hand. Wen Ao Feng was surrounded by cosmic energies and retreated quickly. However, a hand caught up with him and slammed into him. He was flung away helplessly. Lin Feng had just used a little bit of strength. When Emperor Ni Chun saw that, he was stupefied. The agreement was a joke, ridiculous. His disciple hadn't even withstood a single attack. Lin Feng's physical strength was monstrous. "Ni Chun, little doggy, you should come and fight instead," said Lin Feng sharply. Ni Chun frowned. The crowd was shaking with excitement. Was Lin Feng actually challenging Ni Chun? "Since you want to die, I don't mind. You disrespectful little kid, I'll kill you," shouted Ni Chun, releasing ice-cold wind cosmic energy. "Since I told you you could come and fight, there's no need to find excuses. Back then, when I was in Celestial Qi Castle, you as a high-level emperor blocked my way. You wanted me to cripple my own cultivation. How majestic. Back then, I was only a cultivator of the Zun Qi layer. A high-level emperor against a Zun cultivator? PFFF. Lin Feng smiled mockingly. If Muyi hadn't helped him, Ni Chun would have killed him. Ni Chun said to the crowd icily, "Everyone, attack the assholes of Tiantai and kill them all. Don't let a single one escape." When the crowd heard Emperor Ni Chun, they all shivered. Ni Chun was furious. He wanted to kill all the members of Tiantai without exception. From now on, Tiantai controls the 9 great celestial castles. If anyone dares touch the disciples of Tiantai, I can guarantee you that I will destroy them, rebutted Lin Feng aggressively. The crowd was frozen with indecision. Would they dare attack? Those who had recently joined Tiantai looked angry. They felt like chess pieces. Those who recently joined Tiantai can leave now, and Qingdi Mountain will consider they had nothing to do with that, and we won't kill them, said Ni Chun, glancing at Tiantai's members. There were more than 100 people. They had to make a decision. to become Qingdi Mountain's enemies or not. But Lin Feng had proven that he was really strong. It made them feel even more motivated. Lin Feng was an inspiration for them. Someday, they'd be able to fight on his side. The problem was, what would happen if they became the enemies of Qingdi Mountain? Tiantai doesn't force anyone to stay. You can leave Tiantai if you wish. I don't mind, said Lin Feng calmly. Tiantai didn't imprison people. However, Lin Feng wouldn't let them come back if they left Tiantai. Lin Feng would even be merciless with them. Some people who weren't motivated and determined left the group. When some people saw that, they followed. After a short time, half of the would-be followers had left. After all, Qingdi Mountain controlled the region, and it had been that way for a very, very long time. They simply didn't dare go against them. Tiantai's people are strong. They have ancient scriptures, including great imperial scriptures. They also have incredible skills and techniques. If Tiantai manages to compete with Qingdi Mountain, and I leave, I won't have the opportunity to come back, thought the ones who had remained behind bravely. They were gambling with their lives, but they trusted that young man in the sky. He was heroic and strong. They were convinced Tiantai wasn't going to be destroyed. Finally, after half of the new members of Tiantai left, Lin Feng glanced at the ones remaining calmly. He saw that nobody else and said, "Those who left today won't have the opportunity to come back. People who stayed will all obtain ancient high-level imperial weapons and imperial scriptures." The people who stayed looked delighted. Even Qingdi Mountain didn't offer high-level imperial weapons and scriptures to their people. The people who had just left Tiantai immediately regretted it. Had they just missed an incredible opportunity? Lin Feng had lots of imperial weapons and ancient scriptures. He had spent lots of time in vast celestial ancient city and the holy city. He had killed many people, and each time, he took their treasures. Concerning ancient scriptures, some people didn't need them. Some people also just needed parts of them. "Are you deaf, people of the 9 great celestial castles?" shouted Enai Chun, icily glancing over the crowd. The last time Yaoyi Island's cultivators had come, they had humiliated him. Now Lin Feng had built Tiantai in their territory, and surprisingly they weren't there. "Celestial Wind Castle will help Emperor Enai Chun," said someone in the distance. A group of strong cultivators from Celestial Wind Castle arrived. Lin Feng watched them arrive icily. Celestial Wind Castle used to control the One clan in the central part of Bahuang. Celestial Wind Castle and the One clan always tried to be friends with everyone. However, when Ao Shui was a member of the Assassin Union, and Celestial Wind Castle now controlled the small world. Besides, Lin Feng had lived in Celestial Qi Castle, and someone had tried to kill him there. Lin Feng had always had doubts, and thought that it might be someone from Celestial Wind Castle. Lin Feng didn't understand them. Now they were coming to help Qingdi Mountain. They were the first ones to help. They definitely gave Emperor Enai Chun face. The leader of Celestial Wind Castle had a reason to come out. A short time before, when Ao Feng had told him something important, the former great emperor of Qingdi Mountain had come back, and was in Qingdi Mountain. According to Wen Ao Feng, he had already become a celestial emperor. Even if Yaoyi Island helped Lin Feng, he was still in danger. 2 great emperors, of 2 generations, a great emperor and a celestial emperor. Those 2 cultivators could make things change as they wished. Chapter 1824. Fighting against Enai Chun. "Brother Wen, you're really nice. I am touched by your kindness. Qingdi Mountain will remember it. Who else from the 9 great celestial castles is willing to help?" asked Emperor Enai Chun icily. The other leaders didn't know if Yaoyi Island was there or not. After all, they couldn't really fight against Yaoyi Island. They still had to make a decision, however. Now what could they do? Who would control this place in the future? The people of the 9 great celestial castles noticed something. Emperor Enai Chun could perfectly deal with Lin Feng. But he hadn't yet. He was waiting for them to make a decision. In the distance someone appeared. The members of Celestial Qi Castle looked at that person respectfully. Their leader was here. "Celestial Qi Castle will help Qingdi Mountain, of course. Let's destroy Tiantai," said the leader of Celestial Qi Castle icily. Celestial Qi Castle hated Lin Feng. They had to destroy him and his friends. On top of that, if they didn't kill Lin Feng, maybe he would wipe them out someday. Besides, by helping Qingdi Mountain, they would earn a better position in the region and more influence. Back then, Lin Feng had caused trouble in Celestial Qi Castle, and they had also lost control over the small world. Now it was time for them to rise again. The cultivators of Tiantai will die here today, said the sect leader of the Palace of the Medicinal Kings. The crowd was shaking. 3 leaders in Enai Chun were joining hands to deal with Tiantai, 4 high-level emperors. Tiantai was in danger. They were probably going to be annihilated. Those who had chosen to stay in Tiantai started shaking. How dangerous. Very good, Enai Chun smiled. He then said, since the 6 other leaders don't want to help, I'm not going to force them either. When the 3 leaders heard Enai Chun, they smiled coldly. After that battle, Qingdi Mountain was going to favor them. Celestial Wen Castle, Celestial Qi Castle, and the Palace of the Medicinal Kings are going to be wiped off the map of the 9 great celestial castles, retorted Lin Feng icily. You are really impatient, but don't worry. You're going to die very soon, rebutted Emperor Enai Chun loftily. He waved his hand and cosmic energies condensed around Lin Feng. A gigantic hand appeared, blotting out the sky. Oppress! Shouted Enai Chun icily. It was as if the sky were collapsing. The gigantic hand descended on Lin Feng. Lin Feng sensed the oppressive energies. High-level emperors could easily condense cosmic energies to carry out attacks. The difference between high-level emperors and low-level emperors was gigantic. Dazzling lights appeared, and scorching hot sun started shining. A sun disk appeared in Lin Feng's hand and suns started rotating around him. He waved his hand, and a gigantic sun moved towards the gigantic hand, which was descending from the sky. Thunderous explosions erupted above them as the gigantic hand exploded. Lin Feng rose up into the air holding his sun disk, looking like a sun god. Great Imperial Weapon? Enai Chun frowned, staring at Lin Feng's weapon. Was that Lin Feng's trump card? A great Imperial Weapon? The 3 leaders of the castles were staring at Lin Feng too. Great Imperial weapons were extremely rare. They rarely had the opportunity to see such weapons, and surprisingly, Lin Feng had one. Indeed, a great Imperial weapon. You want it? Lin Feng smiled coldly. Dazzling lights lit up, and a gigantic chessboard appeared. Celestial Evolution Chessboard. As it floated in the air, Lin Feng jumped on it, and it lit up dazzlingly as the pieces on it started moving around. Is that a great Imperial weapon as well? Enai Chun wondered, staring at the chessboard. The chi of Celestial Evolution Chessboard wasn't so dominating, so he couldn't see what level it was. That great Imperial weapon is mine, said Enai Chun icily. Lin Feng had great Imperial weapons, so what? Enai Chun had a high cultivation level. He could steal them from Lin Feng. Die! Enai Chun gestured. A gigantic mountain appeared in the sky above Lin Feng. It started falling from the sky. Lin Feng condensed fire cosmic energies in his sun disk. 9 dazzling suns appeared. Piss off! Lin Feng gestured, thunder rolled, and the gigantic mountain broke apart. Enai Chun started forwards as the energy in the air grew thicker. Dong. Enai Chun raced towards Lin Feng. Lin Feng had the impression he had a mountain riding on his back. High-level emperors could easily pressure him. They were much stronger than medium-level emperors. Dong! Enai Chun jumped again. Lin Feng sensed his blood had started boiling everywhere in his body, as if he were going to explode. This is good for my physical body. Lin Feng relaxed, and let the strength press down on him. Finally, Enai Chun jumped forward again. The energy he was exuding was terrifying. His hand struck at Lin Feng. Lin Feng might explode if the hand reached him. Illusion! Lin Feng jumped away. Celestial Evolution Chessboard became even more dazzling as space bent. An illusion deployment spell appeared, surrounding Enai Chun within. Inside the illusion, Enai Chun was surrounded by millions of Lin Fengs. This chessboard can help him cast deployment spells? Thought Enai Chun. He released his strength again and attacked the illusion. However, nothing happened, and on top of that, he saw a gigantic sun moving towards him, preceded by rolling thunder. At the same time, under Enai Chun's feet, marks appeared and a mighty strength rose up and surrounded him. Enai Chun immediately started moving away, but an earth cage appeared under his feet. Boom! Endless purple lights appeared in the sky, lightning. Millions of bolts had appeared in the sky and Lin Feng's face appeared among them. Chen looked at the sky, releasing earth energy to block the lightning. Thunder kept exploding around him. Suddenly, Chen saw another Lin Feng appear. 9 suns charging him, so dazzling that he could barely see. Why are there 2 Lin Fengs? Wondered Chen, calmly releasing his strength again. As Chen stared at the new Lin Feng, a third one appeared. Chen pulled a long face. A third Lin Feng had appeared. Chen was annoyed. Unfortunately, he didn't have a powerful imperial weapon. He had a few level 6 and 7 imperial weapons. But against Lin Feng's weapons, they were useless. The 3 Lin Fengs surrounded him inside the illusion. Chen couldn't really attack while inside the illusion, and started crazily attacking in all directions. Die! Suddenly, a gigantic ancient stone emerged from Chen's third eye, and moved towards Lin Feng's silhouettes. Lin Feng's soul shook violently. He knew that Chen could destroy his godly awareness. He was a high-level emperor. His godly awareness was far more powerful than Lin Feng's. Hide! Lin Feng's 3 clones hid in the illusion. Chen grimaced. Fighting inside a deployment spell wasn't easy. Chen, back then, you wanted me to cripple my own cultivation. Today, I will cripple your cultivation, proclaimed Lin Feng. Chen frowned. Then, he saw many of Lin Feng's clones reappear. There. Chen picked out 2 clones. They had great imperial weapons in their hands. He had to attack those 2. As expected, the 2 clones attacked and charged at Chen. At the same time, a third Lin Feng was carving more deployment marks. Chen smiled coldly. An armor made of earth energy appeared around him, and he raced ahead. He had to kill Lin Feng, who was carving deployment marks. But he couldn't forget about the 2 others, either. Imprison! Shouted Chen icily. The Lin Feng who was carving marks appeared in a cage. Earth strength surrounded him and constricted him. That clone pulled a long face. Die! Shouted Chen furiously. A gigantic hand thrust at Lin Feng. Arg! Energies rose to the skies. A purple tank appeared and streaked across the sky. However, at that moment, Chen was determined to kill Lin Feng. The problem was that Lin Feng's clones were all around him. Die! Chen was fearless. A Lin Feng in the air released cosmic energies and attacked. It had to be his real body. Die! However, at that moment, another Lin Feng appeared on Chen's left, and Chen's expression shifted. How could this happen? Piss off! Shouted Chen furiously. At the same time, another Lin Feng appeared on Chen's right. Suddenly, Chen had a bad premonition. Oh no! Chen suddenly turned around and saw Culpa lights move towards him at full speed. His armor broke apart. He was shocked. And a fist of pure physical strength attacked him directly. His heart started pounding violently. Chapter 1825. Death Better Than Life. How could that happen? Are the clones with the great imperial weapons not real? Is the third one real? Chen's face turned deathly pale as the fist landed. Destructive Devamara Culpa strength blew throughout his body. Chen didn't have the strength to strike back. His body turned gray. Die! Chen had the sensation that his body was going to explode. He shouted furiously, and released all his strength towards Lin Feng. However, at that moment, bolts of lightning assaulted him. Cosmic strength started condensing, as if we're about to tear him apart. I can easily kill you, Lin Feng stated icily. He condensed physical strength, and punched Chen again. Chen coughed up blood. Die, die, die. Chen was going crazy. He condensed soul strength, trying to attack Lin Feng's godly awareness. You want to die? Lin Feng punched Chen's head, and Chen's soul shook violently. He had the feeling he was really going mad. Lin Feng only stared at him icily. Chen wanted to leave his physical body. If you dare leave your body, I'll crush it and you won't have one anymore, Lin Feng said instantly. And Chen immediately returned his body. His physical body was badly injured, he was very weak. And if he left his body, Lin Feng could crush it. His soul would be without a body, and he would become weaker and weaker, and would then disperse. He might be able to use the body capture technique, But that was easier said than done. Don't worry, I won't kill you, I'll just cripple your cultivation. If I wanted to kill you, I wouldn't have made such efforts, said Lin Feng emotionlessly. He kept punching in Ai Chun, whose veins exploded one after another. Indeed, Lin Feng also wanted to practice in battle. Otherwise, he could have brought in Ai Chun into his soul world. There Ai Chun wouldn't have been able to use cosmic energies properly, and Lin Feng would have easily killed him. At that moment, outside of the illusion, the crowd was staring at Celestial Evolution chessboard. They were wondering how the battle was going. Why hadn't the fighters coming back yet? At that moment, the illusion gradually dispersed. Finally, the two silhouettes appeared in the people's field of vision. Their hearts started pounding violently. At that moment, Ai Chun was softly lying on the ground, as if he had had no bones. He looked furious and desperate. Nobody dared say anything. Emperor Ai Chun lost. What a tragedy for him. The crowd was astonished and staring at Lin Feng. A Zun cultivator, who had the strength of a low-level emperor, had defeated Ai Chun, a high-level emperor of Qingdi Mountain? Tiantai's people clenched their fists. They had made the right decision. They had decided to stay in Tiantai, and Lin Feng had defeated a high-level emperor. He had won. It was an incredible achievement. The members of the 9 great celestial castles looked furious. Lin Feng's words weren't empty words. He could really pose a threat to them. Lin Feng had defeated Ai Chun, which meant that he could also fight against the leaders of the 9 great celestial castles. He dared make his disciple fight against Lin Feng? That moronic old dude is ridiculous. Tiantai said heartily at that moment. Lin Feng had defeated a high-level emperor. That was an unbelievable feat. Even if high-level emperors here weren't as strong as the high-level emperors in the Holy City, there was a huge difference between Lin Feng and him. Such achievements were rare. Yuan Fei, Ban Rua, and the others were astonished, their mouths gaping. They had never thought that Lin Feng could be so scary. Let Emperor Ai Chun off, shouted the leader of Celestial Wind Castle icily. The 3 sect leaders walked forwards and released their energies, staring at Lin Feng. They had to kill him. They had chosen the other side. They were Lin Feng's enemies. Bzzz. A strong wind started blowing. Jun Emoshi, Qing Feng, and Wu moved quickly and landed next to Lin Feng. They wanted to get involved. They wanted to fight against high-level emperors. The crowd was stunned at the implications. A piercing whistle rose. A supernatural bird appeared in the crowd's field of vision. 3-legged golden crow, a supernatural bird. The crowd was stupefied. The bird next to Lin Feng was dazzling and gigantic, and wearing a sun helm. Sunlight surrounded his body, and his strength was oppressive. Wu looked at the 3 leaders icily, making them pause. A great imperial weapon again. It's much more powerful than Lin Feng's sun disk. Such weapons are perfect for sun supernatural birds. Jun Emoshi started releasing hell energies too. His chi rose to the skies, and a spear appeared in his hand, a hell spear containing the strength of the king of hell. Qing Feng also released energies. She was surrounded by black lights, and bestial chi dashed to the skies. She was wearing a terrifying black Taoist robe made of feathers. Even though she didn't condense energies in it, the crowd guessed that it was a weapon. All those young people had terrifying great imperial weapons. Who could compete with them? Who are you? Lin Feng, which group did you join? Cried out Ai Chun. They all had great imperial weapons. A group couldn't have so many great imperial weapons without a celestial emperor backing them. And all those people had special bodies too. Their chi was terrifying. The 3-legged golden crow was a supernatural bird. Qing Feng controlled several sorts of cosmic energies. Jun Emoshi had a monarchic hell chi. Such people couldn't belong to the same group. You are not qualified to speak with me, spat Wu sharply. It was the second time that he talked down to Ai Chun, and the second time that he humiliated him. The first time the crowd wondered, but now nobody dared underestimate Wu. Even the leaders of Celestial Wind Castle, Celestial Chi Castle, and the Palace of the Medicinal Kings didn't dare say anything. The Golden Crows were known to be unruly and obstinate. Was he from Yaoyi Island? Now piss off and go back. Wait for me. I'll come to destroy your groups, Lin Feng said to the 3 leaders icily. Destroy their groups? They were 3 high-level emperors. But Lin Feng had already destroyed Emperor Chen. His strength was unfathomable and enigmatic. He could probably compete with those 3 people. Wu and the 2 others were also very strong. Those 3 emperors had to be careful. Even if they managed to defeat Lin Feng, killing him wouldn't be easy. Qingdi Mountain has 2 great emperors. This battle is not worth it. Qingdi Mountain can take care of themselves, thought the leader of Celestial Wind Castle, before saying to Lin Feng icily, "Let Emperor Chen go. I don't need that piece of trash. You can take him back." From now on, Tiantai determines the laws and rules of the region. Qingdi Mountain has nothing to say anymore. Lin Feng snarled back, before throwing Emperor Chen away. The leader of Celestial Wind Castle jumped up and caught him. Emperor Chen was very weak and seriously injured. He had wanted to kill Lin Feng, but he had failed. Now the great emperors would deal with Lin Feng. Even if he had great imperial weapons, they were useless against such powerful folk. Besides, the great emperors of Qingdi Mountain would love those weapons. "Aren't you leaving? Are you waiting for death?" Lin Feng asked the 3 leaders icily. The 3 leaders departed quickly, but the crowd was still there. They all watched those incredible young people. "Why didn't we kill them?" Wu asked Lin Feng. He had been ready to fight. Surprisingly, Lin Feng hadn't killed them. "We're not in a rush. We'll have opportunities to fight against them. They can wait for us," replied Lin Feng. Then, his silhouette flickered before he landed in front of the white-bearded old man of the Palace of the Medicinal Kings. He said, "Look, the people of the Palace of the Medicinal Kings abandoned you. You're pathetic." The white-bearded old man looked extremely miserable. Lin Feng had defeated Chen. He understood that he was a piece of trash in comparison with Lin Feng and his friends. Death was better than such a life. Chapter 1826. No choice. The white-bearded old man looked extremely weak as he said, "I'm going to die now, I guess. Please, before I die, could you please tell me where you are from? I really want to know." The old man had seen Lin Feng defeat Chen. These young people had great imperial weapons. He knew that Lin Feng and those people had to belong to some incredible and powerful group. Yaoyi Island's great emperor was enigmatic and unfathomable. But he was only a great emperor. From what he knew, there was no celestial emperor in Yaoyi Island, so they couldn't have great imperial weapons. Even if they did, they wouldn't have given them to these young people. "Do you know anything about the central part of the Dark Night region?" asked Lin Feng, lowering his eyes to look at the weak old man on the ground. "I've heard of the Dark Night region. I know that there are 18 main cities there, and that among those, 3 of them are major cities. There are incredible strong cultivators there. Emperors there are common, and there are even many great emperors, celestial emperors. I also know that there are universities in those cities, which accept only incredible geniuses. I also know that some people who amazed the whole world live there. Initially, I wanted to stay here for another 10 years and go on a trip. I wanted to do some sightseeing, explore the world, and become stronger. Unfortunately, I'm doomed now." The old man looked miserable and extremely sad. He had lived for 1,000 years, spending most of his life in region of the 9 great celestial castles. He had traveled a bit, but he had always come back quickly, because he was notorious in the 9 great celestial castles. But in the outside world, people didn't even know of him. He had been a medium-level emperor for a very long time. So initially, he wanted to go and travel. Maybe that he would have had the opportunity to become a high-level emperor in the outside world. "We come from those central places in the Dark Night region. You can die content," said Lin Feng in a low voice. The white-bearded old man's eyes glittered. He looked at Lin Feng deeply, and then he at Wu and the others. Then he smiled indifferently. "I see. Indeed, I can die content." "Go back to Tiantai," said Lin Feng suddenly. In a flash, everybody left. The crowd watched Tiantai's people go. Their expressions were strange. They weren't going to forget this day for a very long time. They had seen a low-level emperor defeat a high-level emperor. They had seen great imperial weapons. And it wasn't over. If Qingdi Mountain didn't manage to destroy Tiantai, Tiantai would rise, and they would take control of the region. The white-bearded old man closed his eyes. Without wasting time, he killed himself. The palace of the medicinal kings had abandoned him. He had become useless, a piece of trash. Living had already become pointless for him. However, someone didn't leave Tiantai. He stayed in the air, glaring at those who had abandoned Tiantai icily, and declared, Lin Feng said he forgave you. However, I am not as nice. You came to Tiantai to obtain precious treasures. And when we were in danger, you betrayed Tiantai? Do you think such things are possible? Those people suddenly looked petrified. Crackling and shattering sounds spread in the air, as if all his bones were about to explode. A lion roared and the sky appeared to start breaking. The atmosphere became eerily silent. Qi rolled in waves and endless lions emerged. Thunder shook, and people started exploding one after another. Those who didn't die are lucky, said Tiantai icily, before his mountainous figure blurred and was gone. The survivors' hearts were pounding. Even though he was young, he was very aggressive and very strong. Lin Feng and the others headed back to Tiantai. However, the atmosphere was lively in the 9 great celestial castles, especially in the buffer zone. People were all talking about the same thing. Tiantai. Tiantai remained discreet on the next day. Emperor Anichen had already informed the great emperors of Qingdi Mountain about Tiantai. He had told them everything, including the great imperial weapons. The 2 emperors didn't really care about what happened in that region, but great imperial weapons were interesting to them. Besides, Qingdi Mountain had also been humiliated. Celestial Qi Castle and the palace of the medicinal kings joined hands. Many strong cultivators from the 2 groups began gathering. People kept traveling and back and forth between the 2 groups. Lin Feng could attack any time, so they were waiting for the great emperors of Qingdi Mountain to go and destroy Tiantai. In Tiantai, a new group of people appeared. This time, their target wasn't Celestial Wen Castle, Celestial Qi Castle, or the Palace of the Medicinal Kings, but the Great Celestial Palace of Thoughtfulness. Back then, Lin Feng had landed in the Great Celestial Palace of Thoughtfulness and had caused trouble. Therefore, the crowd there was worried. Nobody could stop Lin Feng and his friends. That was plain after he defeated Anichen. Apart from the leader of the Great Celestial Palace of Thoughtfulness, nobody could compete with Lin Feng. Lin Feng wants to see the sect leader of the Great Celestial Palace of Thoughtfulness, shouted Lin Feng extremely loudly. Everybody there heard him. Very quickly, a group of people came out of a palace and rose up into the air. Lin Feng was standing in the air 1,000 meters away from them. The leader of the group was wearing a golden robe. He smiled in careful greeting at Lin Feng. Brother Lin Feng, you're a hero. Why have you come to the Great Celestial Palace of Thoughtfulness? I said it for everyone to hear. I'm going to destroy Celestial Wen Castle, Celestial Qi Castle, and the Palace of the Medicinal Kings. From now on, Tiantai determines the laws and rules of the region. Qingdi Mountain has nothing to say anymore. Does the Great Celestial Palace of Thoughtfulness accept that? Lin Feng asked clearly. He sounded calm and serene, but at the same time deadly aggressive. The members of the Great Celestial Palace of Thoughtfulness pulled a long face. Lin Feng had defeated Anichen, his friends, and he had also killed many people from the Palace of the Medicinal Kings. Now he was at the Great Celestial Palace of Thoughtfulness, and straightforwardly told them that they were now the rulers of the region. How arrogant! We don't want to get involved, said the sect leader with a bland smile. He didn't agree, but he didn't refuse either. Qingdi Mountain and Lin Feng were now competing for the leadership of the region. Expressing an opinion wasn't wise in such times. You don't want to get involved? Repeated Lin Feng, smiling coldly. Was that possible? Back then, when I left, you wanted to kill me. Today, I'm here and I didn't come for revenge. I'm giving you an opportunity. And now you're telling me you don't want to get involved? Ridiculous, said Lin Feng coldly. I'm asking you one more time, do you accept these words or not? When Lin Feng finished talking, he took out his celestial evolution chessboard. The pieces started moving, and fell lights glittered. The members of the Great Celestial Palace of Thoughtfulness shivered. They had to make a decision, otherwise Lin Feng would attack them. The leader of the Great Celestial Palace of Thoughtfulness grimaced. Lin Feng posed a threat to them. If they went against Tiantai, then Tiantai would destroy them. If you use strength to take over the region, then of course we agree. We have no choice. replied the leader of the Great Celestial Palace of Thoughtfulness. Tiantai was dangerous. Okay, great. You don't need to worry about anything then. Now, let's get ready. Gather the strong cultivators of the Great Celestial Palace of Thoughtfulness. We're going to Celestial Qi Castle. You have 10 minutes, said Lin Feng. The members of the Great Celestial Palace of Thoughtfulness were astonished. As expected, Lin Feng wanted them to fight against Celestial Qi Castle on their side. They had no choice in the matter. Sect leader, did you hear me? You have 10 minutes, Lin Feng said impatiently. All right, we're coming, sighed the leader of the Great Celestial Palace of Thoughtfulness. Then he waved his hand, and strong cultivators from his sect gathered around him. Lin Feng noticed Zhou Tianxiao in the crowd. Lin Feng looked at him on purpose. Zhou Tianxiao noticed that Lin Feng was looking at him, but didn't dare look him in the eyes. He remembered what had happened in the small world. He had told Lin Feng he didn't deserve being called a cultivator, and now he was terrified when Lin Feng looked at him. Lin Feng smiled mockingly and turned his head. Zhou Tianxiao clenched his fists, but he couldn't do anything. Lin Feng and Zhou Tianxiao weren't part of the same world anymore. In front of Lin Feng, it was Zhou Tianxiao who didn't deserve being called a cultivator anymore. Lin Feng despised him. Let's go then. Lin Feng ordered the strong cultivators of the Great Celestial Palace of Thoughtfulness and led them away. At that moment, the members of Celestial Qi Castle were under great pressure. Lin Feng had shocked everyone with his strength. They were worried. Maybe he would come after them. What would they do in that case? In a palace of Celestial Qi Castle, the leader asked someone, "Did Emperor Wen say when the great emperors were going to come?" He told me that Emperor Anai Chun had already informed them, and that they were on the way. Don't worry, we can stay with our allies and nobody will harm us. When the great emperors come, no problem, replied that person. The three groups were going to gather to deal with the Tiantai and destroy them. Chapter 1827. Easy targets. When the leader of Celestial Wen Castle heard that, he remained silent. Lin Feng was terrifying. If he came to Celestial Wen Castle, the situation was bad for them. He could really destroy Celestial Wen Castle. Gathering with their allies was the best thing to do. However, Celestial Qi Castle was gigantic. They certainly couldn't bring all of their cultivators over to Celestial Wen Castle. And even if they did, the two great emperors would then get rid of Tiantai, and after that, what? Everybody would make fun of Celestial Qi Castle in the region. Everybody would laugh if Celestial Qi Castle was so scared of Lin Feng that they had to escape. Leader, even if Tiantai and his friends come here, he won't do anything if you and the others are not here, said that cultivator of Celestial Wen Castle. The leader's eyes twinkled. This guy would help him find an excuse to leave. You're right. Help me call the most outstanding cultivators of Celestial Qi Castle, and tell them to gather. We're going to Celestial Wen Castle, said the leader. His interlocutor quickly went out and called all the direct descendants of Celestial Qi Castle. After a short time, they had gathered in the palace, and the leader of Celestial Qi Castle led them way. After they left, Lin Feng and the others arrived in Celestial Qi Castle and released Qi. Lin Feng and the others directly landed in the central part of Celestial Qi Castle and shouted, "People from Tiantai and the Great Celestial Palace of Thoughtfulness have come to visit you." Nobody replied to him though. Only one person appeared and looked at Lin Feng and the others. He shouted. The leader was invited over by Celestial Wen Castle. They're in Celestial Wen Castle now. You can go there if you want to see them. They ran away? Tiantai looked surprised and shouted, "They're hiding. Why say they were invited by Celestial Wen Castle? Ridiculous." Lin Feng's eyes were twinkling. He fixedly stared at that guy. The man was terrified. Death energies penetrated into his eyes. His life was being corroded. Die, Lin Feng ordered coldly. That person turned gray and collapsed. How weak. Lin Feng, you are so mean, sneered someone at that moment, and some other people appeared. Mean? When Celestial Qi Castle humiliated people in the small world, nobody said they were mean. Now, your leader has run away and abandoned you. Does he think that Celestial Qi Castle will not be destroyed because he ran away? Said Lin Feng icily. In the past, they were prey for Celestial Qi Castle. But now Celestial Qi Castle was too weak to deal with Lin Feng and his friends. That was the law of the jungle. Strong cultivators could kill weak cultivators. Many people had died because of them, and many people had become slaves. If Lin Feng hadn't saved Yuan Fei and the others, they would have perished at Celestial Qi Castle. "Leader, I think you can take care of Celestial Qi Castle," said Lin Feng to the leader of the Great Celestial Palace of Thoughtfulness. He glanced at Lin Feng coldly, but he had no choice. "All right," said the leader. He waved and said to his people, "Kill everyone who has broken through to the Huang Qi layer, and cripple the cultivation of everyone of the Zun Qi layer and under." He's quite cruel, thought Lin Feng. He was surprised. Celestial Qi Castle was going to be annihilated. "Lin Feng, I'm sorry, but it seems that the core members of Celestial Qi Castle are not here anymore. We have to do things quickly, and then go to Celestial Wen Castle to kill the rest," said the leader of the Great Celestial Palace of Thoughtfulness emotionlessly. Since they had agreed to help Lin Feng, they did their best. Celestial Qi Castle could threaten the Great Celestial Palace of Thoughtfulness, so they had to kill everyone. "No rush," said Lin Feng with an agreeable smile. He understood what the other meant. At the same time, in the Palace of the Medicinal Kings, other events were taking place. Some people had gone to kill them, but this time, the killers weren't people from the Great Celestial Palace of Thoughtfulness, and they weren't from Tiantai either. They were from Celestial Sikong Castle. How could Lin Feng forget Celestial Sikong Castle? He hadn't. As he was on his way to the Great Celestial Palace of Thoughtfulness, he had sent Hu Yu, Junemo Shi, and some others to Celestial Sikong Castle. He had told them to give them a choice, just like he had done with the Great Celestial Palace of Thoughtfulness. Initially, Celestial Sikong Castle wanted to go and hide in the Palace of the Medicinal Kings, but in the end, they had had no choice since the heroic cultivators of Tiantai had arrived. Tiantai had forced them to come with them to the Palace of the Medicinal Kings. Lin Feng's enemies were slowly being annihilated. Finally, Celestial Wen Castle was the last one remaining. Celestial Qi Castle and the Palace of the Medicinal Kings were already depopulated. Soon Tiantai's cultivators would head to Celestial Wen Castle. The situation looked bad for them. Many people rushed over to Celestial Wen Castle to watch. Tiantai, Celestial Sikong Castle, and the Great Celestial Palace of Thoughtfulness were all heading to Celestial Wen Castle. When everybody landed, the emperors of both sides faced one another. The members of Celestial Qi Castle and the Palace of the Medicinal Kings were furious, their eyes all bloodshot and staring at their enemies icily. They already knew that the territories and people of Celestial Qi Castle and the Palace of the Medicinal Kings had been annihilated. "Great Celestial Palace of Thoughtfulness, Celestial Sikong Castle, very good," shouted someone icily. The strong cultivators of Celestial Qi Castle and the Palace of the Medicinal Kings were devastated. They didn't know how Tiantai had destroyed their people and territories, but the result was obvious. A wise man understands and submits to circumstances. Since Tiantai now reigns over the region, they decided to join us. "That's logical," said Lin Feng calmly. The members of the Great Celestial Palace of Thoughtfulness and Celestial Sikong Castle were furious, but didn't show it. They initially didn't intend to follow Lin Feng, but he had threatened and forced them. They had had no choice in the matter. "Lin Feng, the great emperors of Qingdi Mountain are coming. You will die soon," shouted the sect leader of Celestial Qi Castle. Lin Feng looked at him disdainfully. "Since it's that way, I'll destroy you before they come." The Great Celestial Palace of Thoughtfulness and Celestial Sikong Castle listened to my orders. Lin Feng released a terrifying qi. 6 extremely strong groups were facing off against one another. "Kill them," ordered Lin Feng, pointing at those people. The strong cultivators of the Great Celestial Palace of Thoughtfulness and Celestial Sikong Castle rushed forward and threw themselves at the enemies. Celestial Wen Castle, Celestial Qi Castle, and the Palace of the Medicinal Kings' people also ran towards their enemies. The cultivators of Celestial Qi Castle and the Palace of the Celestial Kings of Medicine seemed to be the strongest. Fury gave them wings. What a terrifying battle, thought some people in the distance. When the battle started, the cultivators of the Great Celestial Palace of Thoughtfulness and Celestial Seekong Castle were furious. Lin Feng was releasing a powerful qi, but he remained motionless. All the members of Tiantai actually remained motionless. Bastards, thought those people, but it was useless, they couldn't do anything. The members of Celestial Qi Castle and the Palace of the Medicinal Kings had already gone crazy. After realizing that Tiantai wasn't participating, they fought even harder. They wanted to destroy the cultivators of the Great Celestial Palace of Thoughtfulness and Celestial Seekong Castle as fast as possible. Tiantai was making all those people fight. The battle was tragic. After that battle, they'd become the only winners. They weren't losing anyone. The other forces were weakening, however. Those who didn't participate in the battles were those who had never had any problem with Lin Feng. Emperors fell from the sky. Cosmic energies kept dispersing as great cultivators died. The watchers were astonished at the sight. Lin Feng finally moved. His celestial evolution chessboard appeared and became gigantic. He also took out his sun disk. Jun Mo Shi took out his hell spear. Wu turned into a bird, his sun helm dazzling. Qing Feng was wearing her Taoist robe made of feathers. Hu Yu was smiling as she watched all this. That little boy was impressive. She was pleasantly surprised. She wasn't worried at all. She could just watch. She didn't need to help them. Ho Qing Lin and the others were also on the side. They sealed off the area. Lin Feng dashed ahead, dazzling lights shining about him. His chess pieces kept moving. He also started fighting. It was an incredible sight to see. Die! Lin Feng jumped forwards, deployment lights all around him. The lights touched a strong Celestial Qi Castle cultivator, who was reduced to ashes in the blink of an eye. He was an easy target like a turtle in a jar. From now on, Tiantai controlled the region. Chapter 1828. Strong cultivators landing. The crowd was astounded. This time, the situation of the 9 great celestial castles was truly going to change drastically. Many people fought. 5 of the 9 great celestial castles were here, and so was Tiantai. There were many strong cultivators. The members of Celestial Wen Castle were getting crushed, injured or killed one after another. This battle was shocking. Tiantai's people finally started fighting. Lin Feng was holding a great imperial weapon and was continually killing people. Each time he moved, he killed someone, and another strong cultivator fell from the sky. Jun Mo Shi and the others were merciless. Jun Mo Shi's hell spear turned into a million gloomy spears. Each time someone tried to pass him, he killed them. The Great Celestial Palace of Thoughtfulness and Celestial Seekong Castle couldn't do much. They had to fight, they had to kill. Tiantai's people were just killing easy targets, the people who tried to escape. They were there to kill. Lin Feng and the others had great imperial weapons. Nobody could compete with them. The leaders of the opposite side were fighting against the leaders of Celestial Seekong Castle and the Great Celestial Palace of Thoughtfulness. They were also trying to buy time, hoping the great emperors of Qingdi Mountain would arrive. Enai Chen was standing at the top of a castle in Celestial Wen Castle, watching the Great War. He was astonished. Tiantai was truly cruel, the way they were taking over the 9 great celestial castles. The great emperors of Qingdi Mountain are going to arrive soon. You will die when they arrive, thought Enai Chen. His cultivation had been crippled, but he still looked furious, hoping Lin Feng and his friends would be killed quickly. Emperors kept falling from the sky one after another. Emperor Enai Chen's heart was pounding. So many strong cultivators were dying. What a tragedy, they were dying so quickly. At that moment, a strong wind started whistling. A terrifying and oppressive energy invaded the atmosphere. All the fighters started trembling. "Stop!" shouted a very loud voice. Someone new appeared and descended from the sky. That person looked calm and serene, majestic and dignified. People who were fighting like madmen stopped and raised their heads to watch. The cultivators of Celestial Wen Castle were ecstatic. Finally, the great emperor of Qingdi Mountain, it had to be. Great Emperor Qing. Enai Chen looked crazy with joy. Finally, Great Emperor Qing had arrived. Emperor Enai Chen started crying. His heart was pounding, and his cheeks were flushed. Great Emperor Qing was going to avenge him. He was going to kill Lin Feng and destroy Tiantai. The silhouette in the sky became more and more distinct. The crowd had thought they'd see an old man, but instead a young man appeared. He was remarkably young, but his expression was sharp and fearsome. Great Emperor Qing was old, but his cultivation level was so high that he had rejuvenated. It's a soul, thought Lin Feng, watching the silhouette in the sky. The great emperor glanced at Lin Feng and the other, and at their great imperial weapons. He said coldly, "Tiantai, come and talk." Lin Feng rose up into the air. He was on his celestial evolution chessboard, and he holding his sun disk. He looked remarkably calm. Suddenly, a terrifying and oppressive energy surrounded him. His soul was shaking, as if the great emperor could kill him any time. Lin Feng just frowned and glanced at him coldly. "You insolent little boy, be polite and respectful when you see a great emperor," said Great Emperor Qing coldly, and the pressure on Lin Feng's body became more intense. "You're just a soul," retorted Lin Feng coldly. Great Emperor Qing grunted icily, and released even more strength. "You insolent little bastard," said Great Emperor Qing. Lin Feng groaned icily. The oppressive strength was painful. His sun disk became even more dazzling as it released more energies. Lin Feng rose higher up in the air and stared at Great Emperor Qing. They were at the same level in the air, which was a sign of disrespect. Lin Feng should have been lower than him. "Since you're here, I wanted to tell you something. From now on, Tiantai rules over the region. Qingdi Mountain has nothing to say here anymore. We determine the rules here now." Lin Feng stated clearly and distinctly. People's hearts were pounding. Was Lin Feng insane? He dared talk to Great Emperor Qing that way. "You want to die?" Enai Chen blurted out eagerly, staring at Lin Feng. Lin Feng was going to bring about his own destruction. Great Emperor Qing hadn't expected that Lin Feng would dare talk to him like that. He frowned and said, "Do you know who I am? If you come with your real body, we'll talk," shouted Lin Feng icily. Then he slashed away. His celestial evolution chessboard streaked across the sky. At the same time, his sun disk moved towards Great Emperor Qing. Great Emperor Qing's soul was suddenly surrounded by lights. It was as if a sun had fallen on him, completely warping the space. Lin Feng is acting recklessly. Thunder rang out, and Great Emperor Qing's soul was destroyed. People's hearts were pounding violently. Lin Feng dared humiliate Great Emperor Qing? Dong! In the distance, a strong wind started blowing, and clouds appeared as a mighty wind swept across everyone. People's faces changed. Great Emperor Qing was arriving physically. As expected, everybody remained silent as Great Emperor Qing appeared. He flashed and landed in front of Lin Feng, releasing a monstrous qi. At that moment, Wu and the others rushed over and came up next to Lin Feng. Lin Feng was strong, but he couldn't compete with a great emperor. "I am here. What do you want to talk about?" demanded Great Emperor Qing icily. He gestured and a mountain appeared to loom over Lin Feng. He could make cosmic energies appear in the blink of an eye, already in perfect symbiosis with the earth and the sky. He was a great emperor. He didn't need to do anything to condense cosmic energies. "You're here? Well, piss off," said Wu when he saw that Great Emperor Qing was attacking Lin Feng. "If Qingdi Mountain dares get involved, they will be annihilated." "Are you threatening me?" Great Emperor Qing asked Wu icily. "Indeed, I am threatening you," retorted Wu aggressively. Then he took out a talisman and broke it. In a flash, an explosion rang out as a bestial qi rose to the skies, the atmosphere turning into an ocean of flames. A gigantic supernatural bird appeared, its burning eyes massive. "Wu, who's bullying you?" asked the older golden crow. Flames were still burning, and the shaken crowd couldn't see clearly. What or who was that supernatural bird? Great Emperor Qing's contemptuous expression changed drastically. What a pressure! His eyes were nearly popping out. He looked at Wu and the others with new eyes. Who were these people? "Qingdi Mountain, Great Emperor Qing. Nice to meet you, master," said Great Emperor Qing, bowing before the gigantic bird. He was afraid. He didn't want to offend someone like that. The bird looked at Great Emperor Qing emotionlessly, but at that moment, more overwhelming energies swept past them, and another cloud appeared. The crowd was shaken even more. Another terrifying cultivator was coming? Enai Chen was stupefied, but there was hope. This time Great Emperor Qing Sr. was there. Enai Chen hadn't thought that Wu had such an incredible background. But Great Emperor Qing Sr. could probably do something. Celestial Emperor. Great Emperor Qing bowed before Celestial Emperor Qing Sr. A Celestial Emperor was there. Even Great Emperor Qing had to bow before him. The crowd couldn't imagine how strong a Celestial Emperor was. Was a great war going to start? The leader of Celestial Wen Castle was astonished. The situation kept evolving. Who was going to win? I finally arrived. The newcomer smiled at the silhouette. He knew how strong the supernatural bird was. Master, children are just fighting. We are sorry for the inconvenience. When the crowd heard that, they were completely astonished. How strong was that bird? Little Qing, apologize. That's an incredible cultivator from the animal world in vast celestial ancient city, shouted Great Emperor Qing Sr. to Great Emperor Qing furiously. Great Emperor Qing was petrified. The animal world in vast celestial ancient city, he had obviously heard about them before. His expression twisted in shock before recovering. I am sorry, Great Master. Apologized Great Emperor Qing, bowing deeply. Enai Chen's face turned deathly pale. He looked hopeless. The two great emperors were bowing before these people. Who were these people? The Celestial Emperor looked at Great Emperor Qing and said, Why didn't you call me first? Celestial Emperor. This is the territory of the 9 great celestial castles. I didn't want to disturb you, admitted Great Emperor Qing. He didn't know what to say. He didn't understand either. The 9 great celestial castles were a trivial and insignificant territory. What was going on? Why had strong people from the animal world come there? The Celestial Emperor groaned icily. He looked at Lin Feng and his friends and smiled wryly. I've heard about what happened. I knew it was you. Luckily, I didn't waste time and hurried over. Little Qing, come here, ordered Celestial Emperor tightly. He pointed at Lin Feng and the others and said, These are incredible students from Champion University in the Holy City. The Golden Crow is from the animal world. There's also the heir of the King of Hell Palace. After what happened, I think you should apologize. Great Emperor Qing's heart was pounding. He hoped that damn Enai Chen would die. What a bastard. Chapter 1829. Leaving sorrowfully, Great Emperor Qing traveled a lot. He was bored in Qingdi Mountain. He had nothing to do there, and he couldn't progress if he stayed there. He just practiced in Qingdi Mountain when he returned there. Most of the time, he was out traveling. He knew about Champion University and the other universities in the Holy City. These young people were from vast celestial ancient city, the animal world, the King of Hell Palace, Champion University. No wonder that they had great imperial weapons. Even though they weren't very strong yet, at least compared to him, they had terrifying backgrounds. Besides, Great Emperor Qing Sr. seemed to know them. Now he had to apologize before these young people. That was difficult as a great emperor, but he had no choice. He lowered his head. I made a mistake. Please forgive me, said Great Emperor Qing to Lin Feng and the others. Lin Feng just looked at him and repeated, From now on, this place belongs to Tiantai, and Tiantai determines the rules from now on. Qingdi Mountain probably doesn't mind, right? We understand, said Great Emperor Qing calmly. Tiantai had all the advantages now. They couldn't infuriate them. Thank you, Great Emperor Qing, Lin Feng said indifferently. At that moment, bestial qi rose to the skies. The old golden crow released a burning hot qi and said, Since it's that way, I'm off. The bestial qi dispersed, and the bird disappeared. Lin Feng slowly turned to Great Emperor Qing Sr. and smiled. Master Duanmu, how come you're Celestial Emperor Qing? Celestial Emperor Qing was actually Duanmu Celestial Emperor. Why couldn't I be? Asked Duanmu Celestial Emperor, grinning. When I broke through to the Huangqi layer, I realized I had several talents. I understood weapons, and I was good at proper cultivation too. Why couldn't I use 2 social statuses in such conditions? Lin Feng was surprised but laughed. Indeed, Duanmu could use 2 social statuses. He had practiced cultivation really hard in Qingdi Mountain, and then he had gone to the Gold Fire Tower and become a great scholastic master of weapon manufacturing arts. Then, He had become a great emperor and had taken control of Qingdi Mountain. At the same time, he also had a particular social status in the Gold Fire Tower. I understand, said Lin Feng. Duanmu smiled wryly. Luckily, I guessed that it was you guys. Otherwise, the situation could have been different. Little Qing is my heir. Don't be mad at him. Qingdi Mountain is still Qingdi Mountain. But don't worry, we won't get involved in your things. The crowd was astonished and speechless. Duanmu and Lin Feng knew each other. Besides, he was asking Lin Feng not to be mad at Great Emperor Qing. The opposite would have been more appropriate. He should have asked Great Emperor Qing not to be mad at those young people. Master Duanmu, we are not planning anything. And all this has nothing to do with Qingdi Mountain. The problem was in Aichen, that little dog, as well as a few despicable people. They tarnished Qingdi Mountain's reputation, said Lin Feng. Duanmu Celestial Emperor laughed and said, From now on, Aichen is not a member of Qingdi Mountain anymore. You can deal with him as you wish, and Qingdi Mountain's people won't get involved in your things. Remember to come and visit me when you have time. I will, nodded Lin Feng. Then, Duanmu looked at Great Emperor Qing and said, Little Qing, let's go. Great Emperor Qing was speechless as he left with Duanmu. When he had arrived, he was loud, and now he was leaving silently. Tiantai could deal with those people by themselves. The crowd understood that the 9 great celestial castles were going to change, and things were going to be better for Celestial Summer Castle and the others. Luckily, they hadn't helped Tiantai's enemies. The leader of Celestial Wind Castle was impotently furious. Great Emperor Qing Sr. knew Lin Feng. The members of Celestial Qi Castle and the palace of the medicinal kings were crushed. They had been waiting for the great emperors the whole time. They had thought the great emperors would save them. In the end, Duanmu hadn't helped them, and they could consider themselves lucky that Duanmu hadn't attacked them. Regarding Aichen, he had been abandoned by everyone. Aichen was almost dead. He looked desperate. He was so happy to see the great emperors arrive. He had thought Lin Feng would die quickly. In the end, he had been abandoned. That was a true descent into hell for him. He was doomed. From now on, Tiantai is the governing party of the region. Now, I give you the order to destroy Celestial Wind Castle, Celestial Qi Castle, and the palace of the medicinal kings. Everyone can attack, said Lin Feng calmly. Suddenly Qi rose to the skies. The members of the Great Celestial Palace of Thoughtfulness and Celestial Sikong Castle didn't hesitate at all. They started attacking at full strength. They couldn't infuriate Lin Feng anymore. He had friends who were celestial emperors. Lin Feng and his friends watched the massacre. Strong cultivators were destroying Celestial Wind Castle, and more strong cultivators appeared. Celestial Wind Castle's cultivators were furious. Tiantai was rising. Now Tiantai ruled over the region, and nobody could change that. 7 days later, many things had changed in the region. The atmosphere was very lively in Celestial Wind Castle, Celestial Qi Castle, and the palace of the medicinal kings. People were constructing new buildings. Of course, those 3 cities weren't called Celestial Wind Castle, Celestial Qi Castle, and the palace of the medicinal kings anymore. They had only one name, Tiantai. At the same time, Tiantai continued recruiting people. Many young people from the 9 great celestial castles wanted to join Tiantai. For them, joining Tiantai was an honor. Those who had joined before and hadn't betrayed Tiantai were extremely happy. Those who had betrayed Tiantai and were still alive couldn't join Tiantai anymore and regretted everything. The situation wasn't as tragic as 7 days before anymore. The battles were over. The landscape gradually changed. Apart from a few people, all the members of Celestial Qi Castle, Celestial Wind Castle, and the palace of the medicinal kings had died. The sect leader of the Great Celestial Palace of Thoughtfulness was almost dead, severely injured. The sect leader of Celestial Sikong Castle was also badly injured. Their groups had also lost many strong cultivators. But they still had their cities, that was already worthy of celebrating. However, it was as if Lin Feng didn't know about those things. He was supervising the renovation and construction of new buildings in the former territory of Celestial Qi Castle. Mu Yin was there. Lin Feng was at the foot of the ancient tree, and looked at the thatched hut. But Mu Yin didn't come out. "Little boy come," Hu Yu smiled. Lin Feng nodded, turned around and departed. They flew at full speed to the entrance of the small world. After Lin Feng left, Mu Yin came out and looked at the sky. The sun was red. She smiled widely but sadly. Tears flowed down her cheeks. Lin Feng and her were from different worlds. Many things were probably going to happen in Lin Feng's world, but the world she wanted was a world of peace and tranquility. In the Bahuang small world, in the central part of Bahuang, in the ancient Sun Castle, someone was seated cross-legged, his eyes closed. However, he suddenly opened his eyes. Some people wanted to come to the small world. His silhouette flickered. He put his hands on a symbol and quickly appeared outside as some people appeared in front of him. He knew some of them. Chapter 1830. Bahuang. Nowadays the strong cultivator of the celestial palace of the punishing thunders remembered back then, when Emperor Wu Tianjian had threatened him. Later on, things had changed, and another group had taken control over the small world. However, people had continued consulting him concerning issues in the small world, so he was still the manager of the small world. He hadn't thought that Lin Feng would come back after so many years. "You surprisingly dared come back," said the strong cultivator, smiling coldly. Lin Feng hadn't leveled up, it seemed, but the people around him were quite strong. They were all low-level emperors. He was a bit surprised. "Let us go into the small world," ordered Lin Feng calmly. The strong cultivator of Celestial Palace of the Punishing Thunders frowned and looked at Lin Feng. Lin Feng was provoking him? Lin Feng had no time to talk nonsense. He immediately broke a talisman, lights, and then a silhouette appeared. The strong cultivator of Celestial Palace of the Punishing Thunders was stupefied. He bowed and said, "Master, from now on, there is no entry and exit restriction. Open the passage, and apologize to Lin Feng for what you did in the past. If Lin Feng forgives you, come back to Celestial Palace of the Punishing Thunders. If he doesn't, then you will never come back," said the leader of Celestial Palace of the Punishing Thunders icily. The strong cultivator was in charge of protecting the passage. Back then, he had joined hands with Celestial Qi Castle and Celestial Sikong Castle, and had offended Lin Feng. However, now things had changed. Now the Celestial Palace of the Punishing Thunders, the Great Celestial Palace of Thoughtfulness, and Celestial Sikong Castle respected Tiantai. After all, they couldn't change anything, and Lin Feng had taken control over the region. He had also destroyed his enemies, such as Celestial Qi Castle and the Palace of the Medicinal Kings. Regarding Celestial Wen Castle, they had chosen the wrong allies, but Lin Feng wasn't as cruel to them as he had been Celestial Qi Castle and the Palace of the Medicinal Kings. The strong cultivator of Celestial Palace of the Punishing Thunders pulled a long face and lowered his head before he moved aside, not daring to look at Lin Feng. "Haven't you heard me? Apologize. Apologize to Tiantai's heroic cultivators. Celestial Qi Castle and the Palace of the Medicinal Kings have been destroyed. Do you want to die too?" asked the leader of Celestial Palace of the Punishing Thunders. When the strong cultivator heard that, he was astonished and his heart twitched. Lin Feng and his friends had destroyed Celestial Qi Castle and the Palace of the Medicinal Kings? What was going on? "Humph," the leader of the castle groaned icily, and then he disappeared. The strong cultivator's heart was pounding violently. He didn't know what to think, but all in all, he bowed before Lin Feng and his friends and said, "I offended you. I'm infinitely sorry. I hope you can forgive me." Lin Feng looked at him icily and said, "After we pass, you'll leave the passage open forever. If we need a guard, then you'll be the guard forever." Lin Feng didn't intend to kill him. Even though that guy was a moron, he was also the guard of the passage. Changing the guard wouldn't have any impact. Guards always enjoyed doing things their own way. Back then, he had received orders from the Celestial Palace of the Punishing Thunders. But from now on, he couldn't close the passage anymore. "Yes, sir," said the guard, nodding before he went and opened the passage. Lin Feng and the others passed and landed in the Sun Castle. They walked along a long corridor and appeared outside. They all took a deep breath. Bahuang. Lin Feng closed his eyes and enjoyed the fresh air of the small world. Finally, Lin Feng had the sensation he hadn't been back in forever. "Lin Feng, we're back," said Junemoshi, walking up next to Lin Feng. His eyes were twinkling. Back then, when they had left, he hadn't taken Xiao Dai with him. They hadn't seen each other for years. He was wondering how she was doing. Ho Qinglin and Tianqi walked forwards. Unfortunately, their teacher wasn't here with them. Some other fellow disciples weren't there either. How were they all doing? They had built Tiantai in the region of the 9 great celestial castles for several reasons. The first was to control the region, including the small world. Then, people from the small world would be able to come in and out freely and practice cultivation in the great world. Nobody would treat them as slaves anymore. The second reason was that if their teachers and fellow disciples heard of Tiantai, they'd know where to find them. "Let's go," whispered Lin Feng. Then he walked forwards. They were going back to Ba Huang, the place where they had risen. Lin Feng's cultivation had changed drastically since back then, when he had come to Ba Huang. 10 years had passed. That was a long time. 2 powerful groups controlled Ba Huang now, one of them being the Wen clan. Many years before, there was the Xikong clan in the central part of Ba Huang, and the Qi clan and Celestial Palace of the Immortals were in the eastern part of Ba Huang. After all the emperors had left, people had heard of the Great World. The Qi clan and the Xikong clan had then started declining. However, the Wen clan had continued rising. They had become quite strong and had taken control over the central part of Ba Huang. The magic world Heavenly Palace had disappeared. Only the Xikong clan had remained. Jiang'e still existed, but they were weaker than the Wen clan. However, according to legends, there was a strange old man who never came out in Jiang'e. Apart from the Wen clan, there was another strong group, the Palace of the Medicinal Kings. The Palace of the Medicinal Kings had occupied the territory of Celestial Place of the Alchemists back then, in the southern part of Ba Huang. They ruled over the southern part of Ba Huang now. Many groups which existed back then had declined or even been destroyed. For example, Tiantai had disappeared from the northern part of Ba Huang. Their territory had been maintained temporarily, but now they had completely disappeared. Sometimes some old people talked about them, but most people were gradually forgetting about it. Apart from that, many groups had disappeared and were part of history. However, some new groups had also started rising. Some people also tried to resurrect some groups which had been destroyed. For example, in the southern part of Ba Huang, a celestial being had appeared and wanted to resurrect the celestial place of the alchemists. Unfortunately, even though she had broken through to the Huangqi layer, the Palace of the Medicinal Kings kept humiliating her. Everybody called her Empress Shui, or Shui Celestial Being. She had become even more beautiful. She was one of the legendary 4 most beautiful women of Ba Huang, Shui Bagyo. There were many legends about Shui Bagyo and the Celestial Palace of the Alchemists. Some people said that Emperor Dan had used her back then, and that she had followed people from Tiantai. Some rumors also said that she had fallen in love with Lin Feng, but that his wife was already a celestial being, Mengqing. Therefore, he had refused Shui Bagyo, and Shui Bagyo had remained in the small world. Back then, she hadn't followed the others into the great world. Of course, those were just rumors. But in the southern part of Ba Huang, there was another group. They were called Qifeng Mountain. Back then, they had dispersed, and then someone had restored the group. 2 beautiful sisters, Feng Ling and Feng Xian. Back then, Feng Xian was also one of the 4 most beautiful women. However, Feng Ling had become just as beautiful, if not more so. Besides, Feng Ling had broken through to the Huangqi layer before Feng Xian. Some people said that they had gone to the outer world and had come back. Nobody could check whether the information was true or not. Only those who had gone to the great world could know. Regarding the last of the 4 most beautiful women, apparently she was from the Wen clan. Some people said that she pretended to be a man. Now she didn't hide anymore, and she had become one of the 4 most beautiful women. Her name was Wen Ao Shui. She was the pride of the Wen clan. In the northern part of Ba Huang, some funny things happened too. For example, a young man had started rising. He was extremely strong. and people found him extraordinary, as he was extremely talented. That guy wanted to recreate Tiantai. He traveled a lot, trying to recreate Tiantai. Lin Feng knew nothing about those things. Now he was going to Jiang'e alone. He was flying on his gigantic sword. It reminded him of so many things. Without Jiang'e, everything in his life would have been different. Emperor Wu Tianjian had helped him so much in life. Bzz. Some silhouettes flickered and people appeared in front of him. They all looked as sharp as swords. Young master, their young master was back. If I become an emperor someday, Jiang'e will rule over the central part of Ba Huang. That was what Lin Feng had said back then. They all remembered that, he did too. Now he was back, but he was still a Zun cultivator. Would he make them proud? Chapter 1831. Godly Wood Sap. Jiang'e is a powerful group in the central part of Ba Huang. The one clan ruled over the central part of Ba Huang. Even though Jiang'e had Emperor Wu Tianjian, they didn't rule over the region because the old emperor was detached from worldly affairs. Jiang'e thus preferred staying in the shadows. Besides, Jiang'e probably couldn't rule over the region anymore, as when Ao Shui had already become a low-level emperor. She was a genius. Many people in Ba Huang thought that the geniuses of the previous generations were amazing, especially those who had disappeared. Those who had risen a bit later, such as Shui Bagyo, Feng Ling, Wen Ao Shui, and so on, had already broken through to the Huangqi layer, but the geniuses who had disappeared were even more powerful. Tiantai's disciples had amazed the whole region during the meeting of the emperors. Wen Ao Shui, Shui Bagyo, and the others couldn't compete with them back then. Even fools could imagine that those people had probably become powerful emperors already. Unfortunately, people had been able to leave the small world for a while before the passage had been closed again. The geniuses who had disappeared hadn't come back for quite some time. However, at this moment, Lin Feng was right there, outside of Jiang'e. Young master. The crowd remained silent for a time, staring at Lin Feng, before bowing before him. Even if Lin Feng hadn't become an emperor yet, he had probably become even more powerful than before. Unfortunately, Wen Ao Shui and all the others had already broken through to the Huangqi layer. Why hadn't Lin Feng broken through to the Huangqi layer? Did he have a problem? Jianmu, is the emperor here? Lin Feng asked Jianmu. Jianmu nodded. Young master, the emperor is in the sword grave. After you left, nobody dared go inside anymore. We don't want to disturb him. I think he should still be in there, but I'm not sure. All right, said Lin Feng with a nod, before starting to walk through Jiang'e. Young master, shouted Jianmu. Lin Feng stopped, turned around and looked at Jianmu. I hope you can cheer him up, said Jianmu, bowing before Lin Feng. The ancestor was here, and he didn't do anything for Jiang'e. That made Jianmu feel very sad. Lin Feng had come back, but he hadn't broken through to the Huangqi layer, so their last hope was their ancestor. Jianwu Bei was now a cultivator of the top of the Zunqi layer, so hopefully the old man would help him a little. Lin Feng understood what Jianmu meant, his eyes twinkling, and he said, From now on, Jiang'e will rule over Ba Huang. Then he continued on. Jianmu and the others were surprised. Jiang'e was going to rule over Ba Huang? Was that possible? Did Lin Feng have a solution? Lin Feng walked straight to the sword grave. It was currently sealed by sword energies. Lin Feng looked at that curtain made of sword lights. Even sounds couldn't get through. How was Emperor Wu Tianjian doing? Lin Feng punched the curtain of sword qi, which instantly broke apart and dispersed, allowing him to enter. In the sword grave, the old man was seated cross-legged. He looked extremely old, and had many wrinkles. His hair had become completely white. Lin Feng was stupefied. What was going on? What had happened? The old man slowly opened his eyes. He looked very sick. It was hard to imagine that that old man was Emperor Wu Tianjian, the one who had forced the medium-level emperor of the celestial palace of the punishing thunders to open the passage to the great world. You're here, exclaimed the old man, smiling at Lin Feng. He looked so sick though. Master, what's wrong? Asked Lin Feng. He didn't understand why the old man looked so bad. Had his injury worsened? I will die soon, said the old man calmly. Long ago I was injured, so I hid in here. I went out a few times because of you. To be honest, I also hoped you would be able to help me someday. However, while I was waiting a few years ago, the enemy came here, and I had to use all my strength to scare him away. It worked, but now I'm going to die. The old man looked extremely sad. I'm going to die soon, and you haven't broken through to the Huangqi layer yet. The gods hate me. Lin Feng, have a seat. I will transmit everything I have learned in this life to you. Lin Feng sighed. Emperor Wu Tianjin didn't care about Jiang'e. He had founded Jiang'e, and Jiang'e's people were his people, his descendants. He had sealed the tomb, and he didn't give any news to his people. He could have died in the tomb, and nobody would have known about it. That was sad, considering that he was a public figure in the small world. Master, how could you say such a thing? Said Lin Feng calmly. Then he walked to the old man, and slowly crouched down. He took the old man's hands in his hands, and started releasing life cosmic energies, which raced throughout the old man's body. Emperor Wu Tianjin instantly started looking more alive. His eyes started twinkling. This was cosmic energy, and this cosmic energy was intense, thick, and rich. A Zoom cultivator couldn't possibly control such cosmic energies. You've already broken through to the Huangqi layer? Emperor Wu Tianjin asked Lin Feng. Master, do you think I am that bad at cultivation? Smiled Lin Feng. He didn't stop releasing life cosmic energy. I am old and tired. I just realized that if you hadn't broken through to the Huangqi layer, you wouldn't have been able to break the sword energy curtain I created to seal the grave. It seems like you studied an incredible technique to hide your cultivation level. Surprisingly, I didn't even notice. But your life cosmic energies still can't heal me. They can help me live a bit longer at best. All in all, my injuries are too severe, and I will die soon, said Emperor Wu Tianjin, sighing. His hair had started turning black again. Not necessarily, replied Lin Feng. Lin Feng walked out of the grave and released immortal sword energies to seal the grave, then came back into the sword grave. A pitch-black tree appeared before them. The tree turned into black wood, and powerful cosmic energies invaded the atmosphere. An ancient tree, black wood, powerful cosmic energies, several sorts of cosmic energies. Emperor Wu Tianjin was staring at the wood floating in midair. He was stunned as he looked at Lin Feng. What is this? Heavenly grace godly wood. Lin Feng said calmly. Emperor Wu Tianjin's heart suddenly twitched in astonishment. The legendary wood with different sorts of strength. The heavenly grace godly wood that is alive. The sap of the godly wood can heal your injuries, explained Lin Feng. He waved his hand, and the tree moved over to the old man and floated above his head. The old man didn't look so sad anymore. He looked astonished, and sharp lights were glittering in his eyes. Was he going to become as strong as he used to be when he was younger? Lin Feng had surprisingly obtained heavenly grace godly wood. Master, use the sap of the wood to cleanse your body. It will heal you, instructed Lin Feng. Emperor Wu Tianjin nodded as Lin Feng started talking to the godly wood. The heavenly grace godly wood started releasing powerful lights, and drops of sap started falling from it, penetrating into the old man's body. A powerful strength started flowing throughout the old man's flesh and muscles, and auspicious lights started flashing around him. The whole sword grave started trembling. Emperor Wu Tianjin was dumbstruck. Another drop of sap fell onto his body, and the old man started releasing powerful energies. He shouted loudly, Lin Feng, take the godly wood away, don't waste its priceless sap. Emperor Wu Tianjin wasn't selfish. He knew that the sap of this wood was priceless. 2 drops were enough for him to cleanse the toxins in his body. Lin Feng had come back from the great world with this tree. He didn't mind the cost. He just wanted to heal the old man. Another drop is fine, said Lin Feng as he sensed the powerful sword energies in the air. Lin Feng thought that that sap might make Emperor Wu Tianjin even stronger than he used to be. The heavenly grace godly wood had 100 drops. Each drop required hundreds of years to condense. Its sap was priceless indeed, and Lin Feng gave Emperor Wu Tianjin 3 drops. After that, Lin Feng walked away from the emperor, sealing the area away. Jiang'e's people started rushing over there. They all looked at Lin Feng, sensing some powerful cosmic energies. Why had Lin Feng sealed the grave? What had happened to the old man? Young master, called out Jianmu. Lin Feng slowly turned around and looked at Jianmu and the others. He shouted, "Everybody leave, I know what's good for Jiang'a." "Yes, young master," replied Jianmu. He could see Lin Feng's sharp expression and didn't want to disobey. He waved at the others, and they all left. Chapter 1832. The Sword Emperor rises. Jiang's people departed. Lin Feng turned around and looked at the sword intent he had used to seal the sword grave. The energies within the grave seemed like they could explode out at any time. The heavenly grace godly wood's sap is powerful, as expected. If I used it to cleanse my body, perhaps my cosmic energies and my comprehensive abilities would improve, thought Lin Feng. No wonder a heavenly grace ancient tree was so difficult to obtain, and the tree had to agree to follow a cultivator. Unfortunately, there were only 100 drops. Each drop was priceless, taking a century to form. If the heavenly grace godly wood had no more sap, it would turn into an ordinary tree. However, it would take time for Emperor Wu Tianjian to recover. Jianmu and the others had gathered in a courtyard. Even though they were some distance away, they continued staring at the sword grave nervously. "Young master." Lin Feng came over to them. Jianmu was visibly anxious about what was going on. Emperor Wu Tianjian needs time. He's meditating in seclusion. His strength and cultivation level are not only coming back to normal, he's going to improve, Lin Feng explained calmly. Everybody was astonished. The old man was going to become stronger. "Jianmu, what's the situation like in Bahuang these days?" Lin Feng asked him. He had just come back to Bahuang, and his friends were busy doing their own things. Lin Feng wanted to know more about the situation in Bahuang. The Wen clan suddenly became much stronger. The Qi clan gradually declined. The Sikong clan is strong, but in comparison to the Wen clan, they are still weak. I've also heard that the medium-level emperors have all left. A new group appeared in Bahuang, the Palace of Medicinal Kings. They're the only group who can compete with the Wen clan, explained Jianmu briefly. In short, the Wen clan and the Palace of Medicinal Kings were the strongest groups of Bahuang those days. As expected, thought Lin Feng. The Wen clan and the Palace of Medicinal Kings controlled the small world, so they were the strongest in it. They could steal resources to raise their own people. They also paid attention to rising geniuses in the small world. What they couldn't imagine was that they couldn't do much against truly strong people. The Wen clan and the Palace of Medicinal Kings were already doomed. What emperors are there in this world nowadays? And among my enemies of the same generation as me, who is left? Asked Lin Feng. There aren't many emperors these days in Bahuang. The Wen clan and the Palace of Medicinal Kings have emperors. The Sikong clan probably has 2 emperors. Emperor Sikong from back then, and Sikong Shao. The Xiaoyao sect should have 1 emperor. There is also Emperor Lei and Emperor Niuemo in the brutal part of Bahuang. Emperor Peng left with the great oriental greenfinch rock. They probably went to the great world like you. Also, the Celestial Thunder Temple now has an emperor too. Shui Bagio from the celestial place of the alchemists has broken through to the Huangqi layer. Feng Ling has also broken through to the Huangqi layer. Feng Xian will soon break through to the Huangqi layer. Shui Bagio, Feng Xian, Feng Ling, and Wen'eo Shui are the new 4 most beautiful women of Bahuang, continued Jianmu slowly. Lin Feng was astonished and frowned. Wen'eo Shui, one of the 4 most beautiful women of Bahuang? Indeed, she's a woman, nodded Jianmu. Lin Feng was stupefied. Wen'eo Shui, the young man who used to be as beautiful as a woman, actually was one. And she was even so beautiful that men were attracted to her. It wasn't too surprising though. Lin Feng was surprised because when Tiange had gone to the great world, and when Ao Shui had come back to the small world. Young master, that's basically all. All the others left when the passage to the great world was opened. I don't know what the geniuses are doing in the great world, finished Jianmu. Lin Feng nodded. Shui Bagio had lost her memories back then. She had almost gotten married to Emperor Dong's son. Surprisingly, Feng Ling had broken through to the Huangqi layer before Feng Xian. The diviner was knowledgeable. Do you have news from Tiantai? Asked Lin Feng. A mysterious young man nobody knows wants to recreate Tiantai. He is very talented, but he is only a cultivator of the top of the Zunqi layer. And apart from emperors, I don't think anyone can recreate Tiantai. You probably think the same. Some people from the Qi clan and Tianlong Divine Castle are looking for him everywhere. They want to kill him. Even though the Qi clan had already fallen and Tianlong Divine Castle had been destroyed, there were still some of their former members who were still alive. It was impossible to kill every single person in such a big group. A young man wants to recreate Tiantai. Lin Feng was surprised. What's his name? He's less than 20 years old. He appeared in Bahuang and said he wanted to go and see Tiantai. But then he realized that Tiantai didn't exist anymore, so rumors started spreading. He apparently wanted to recreate Tiantai. His name is Yi Chen. There was a beautiful woman with him. Her name was Yi Shui, but her cultivation level was mediocre. Yi Chen Yi Shui. Lin Feng frowned. He remembered back then, he had spent some time in a small village. He hadn't practiced cultivation, merely resting there. Yi Chen must be Xiao Chen. The baby had already grown up. Time passed so quickly. Lin Feng wasn't surprised that the baby had grown up. He was surprised that the young man had gone to Tiantai to find him. Unfortunately, Tiantai had disappeared, so he wanted to recreate it. He had retained the heart of a child. At that moment, a powerful explosive energy pierced through Lin Feng's sword energy curtain like a crack of thunder. In the great world, they are considered as very strong cultivators too, replied Lin Feng cheerfully. The young man clenched his fists, looking extremely motivated. Would he ever become a great emperor? Lin Feng and the members of Jiang'a raised their heads and waited for the emperor to return. After an hour, another hole appeared in the sky, and a beam of light descended. Lin Feng's heart started racing. The light beam turned into a person, Emperor Wu Tianjian. Emperor Wu Tianjian looked incredible and alive, not injured at all, and had regained his youth. He was surrounded by powerful sword energies. He had started rejuvenating. It was incredible to see. Chapter 1833. Emperor Wen's investigation, ancestor, shouted the members of Jiang'a respectfully when they saw their ancestor come back. Had he really become a great emperor? Emperor Wu Tianjian looked at Lin Feng and smiled quietly. It's crazy how things can change so quickly. Lin Feng, I would have never thought I'd ever heal. Thank you very much. Emperor Wu Tianjian had spent so many years with his disease. His enemies had already become great emperors, and he had finally started dying. He had never thought he'd heal and become a great emperor. All thanks to Lin Feng. You made it happen, Lin Feng replied humbly. You became a great emperor on your own. I never thought I'd become a great emperor after 1,000 years. That tree sap helped me immensely, sighed Emperor Wu Tianjian. He had never thought that the heavenly grace godly wood sap would help him so much. Not only did it heal him, but he had broken through. Emperor Wu Tianjian's eyes were twinkling with strange lights from the strength of his new cultivation level. His world strength was becoming more real. He could now create small worlds easily. He waved his hands and swiftly reformed Jiang'a. Let's go in. Emperor Wu Tianjian and Lin Feng entered Jiang'a again. It was the same as before. Emperor Wu Tianjian didn't go back to the sword grave this time. He walked over to a sword mountain with Lin Feng. Lin Feng, do you know why I was injured? Emperor Wu Tianjian asked him. Lin Feng shook his head and replied, I know that it has something to do with Sword Mountain. So you really went to Sword Mountain? Murmured Emperor Wu Tianjian. Lin Feng looked at him strangely as the emperor said, Nobody knew that I was hiding in the small world. However, 1,000 years ago, my enemy found me, and that enemy is the current leader of Sword Mountain. He's probably seen you in your swordsmanship. Lin Feng was surprised and answered, Indeed, I've been to Sword Mountain. I released Wu Tianjian's sword intent, and then they started plotting against me. I didn't know why, and then I learned that it was because you were enemies. Emperor Taijian, the leader of Sword Mountain, probably spied on me. He's not the only one. A few senior officials from Sword Mountain probably thought about me, when they saw your sword energies. They immediately informed Tai Jian. Emperor Wu Tianjian said. Then added, the leader of Sword Mountain, Emperor Tai Jian, is my fellow disciple. Fellow disciple? Lin Feng frowned. So Emperor Wu Tianjian had studied at Sword Mountain. Back then, the leader of Sword Mountain transmitted his knowledge to me, but not to my fellow disciple. Therefore he got angry and wanted revenge. We had a great battle, and I lost. Back then, he was ready to become a great emperor. Even though my cultivation level was high, I was still injured, and my injury only worsened with time. My fellow disciple also continued chasing me. In the end, I had no choice but to come back to this small world. Emperor Wu Tianjian told him calmly. However, I never thought that things would get better, and that I would become a great emperor. Lin Feng, thank you very much. It's all thanks to you. Master, I am also grateful. You taught me so much about sword cultivation, and you took us out of the small world. I had to help you. Besides, I also have some ancient scriptures which I can give to you. That way, if you go back to Sword Mountain, you'll be able to take your revenge. Lin Feng smiled. Emperor Wu Tianjian didn't think much of the offer. Lin Feng's ancient scriptures couldn't possibly be suitable for him, but it was nice of Lin Feng to offer him scriptures. Emperor Wu Tianjian smiled and said, Great, I also have some sword scriptures for you. They both laughed and exchanged scriptures. Nihility sword scriptures, they can help you improve your sword intent. Your sword can then fuse together with the sky. Lin Feng checked the scriptures he had obtained, and was delighted they were very strange. The way cultivators used them was different from other ancient scriptures, and they had an explosive power. The Celestial Evolution Holy Scriptures. At that moment, Emperor Wu Tianjian looked dumbstruck, his heart was pounding, and he was staring at Lin Feng. He didn't really want the ancient scriptures from Lin Feng, but now he was completely stunned. Surprisingly, Lin Feng had transmitted the Celestial Evolution Holy Scriptures to him. Master, have you heard of the Celestial Evolution Holy Scriptures before? Asked Lin Feng. Emperor Wu Tianjian smiled wryly and said, Lin Feng, I initially wanted to give you something incredible to thank you. I wouldn't have thought you'd give me the Celestial Evolution Holy Scriptures. I owe you even more now. What are you talking about, Master? Answered Lin Feng, shaking his head. Emperor Wu Tianjian laughed wholeheartedly and stopped being emotional. He said, Lin Feng, I have the Nihility Sword Scriptures, and now you gave me the Celestial Evolution Holy Scriptures. I will go to Sword Mountain sooner or later. Of course, Lin Feng smiled back. Emperor Wu Tianjian was a genius. 5,000 years ago, he had amazed everyone in the small world, and created his own way of practicing sword cultivation. He was extremely talented. Now that he had the Nihility Sword Scriptures, and the Celestial Evolution Holy Scriptures, he would be able to surpass Emperor Tai Jian sooner or later. Master, I'm off. I'll come back to see you at some point, said Lin Feng. He was done here. Emperor Wu Tianjian had become a great emperor. Things had turned out even better than he had thought. Emperor Wu Tianjian would go to Sword Mountain sooner or later and deal with them. Emperor Wu Tianjian would probably also take over Sword Mountain, as he was, after all, the real descendant of Sword Mountain. All right, agreed Emperor Wu Tianjian with a nod. Lin Feng stood up and headed out. Young master. Jian Mu came up to Lin Feng before he departed. What's wrong? Asked Lin Feng. In the central part of Bahuang, some people from the One clan and the Sikong clan are here, and want to know what's going on with our ancestor, said Jian Mu. Lin Feng's eyes twinkled as he asked, Where are they? Outside. I came to ask you whether we could let them come into Jiang'a, wondered Jian Mu. He didn't dare offend those people. There were 2 emperors there. And even though Emperor Wu Tianjian had become a great emperor, he hadn't taken care of Jiang'a for such a long time. Maybe he didn't care about them either. No need. Unless you agree, nobody can come into Jiang'a anymore. Jiang'a doesn't need to care about giving people face anymore, Lin Feng said sharply. He understood how Jian Mu felt. He continued indifferently. I was going to see them anyway. Lin Feng and the members of Jiang'a headed outside. There were many people gathered there. One of them looked dignified and majestic, and even stronger than before. Emperor 1. Emperor Sikong was there too, but it wasn't the same as before. They watched Jiang as people come out. The leader of the group was a young man, incredibly strong and handsome. When the members of the Sikong clan and the One clan saw that young man, they were stupefied, especially Emperor 1. His eyes glittered. Back then, he had also taken Lin Feng and the others out of the small world, and then his father, and he had come back. Lin Feng, Emperor Wen's eyes were filled with dazzling lights. He was staring at that young man. Lin Feng had surprisingly come back to Ba Huang. Emperor Wen, I trust you have been doing well since we last met. Lin Feng smiled winningly. Emperor Wen looked at Lin Feng. Zunqi layer? Lin Feng surprisingly still has the strength of the Zunqi layer. He hadn't broken through to the Huangqi layer. Interesting. When Ao Shui had already broken through to the Huangqi layer, Lin Feng hadn't. Lin Feng, we haven't seen each other for so many years, and you have become impolite. You should call me master now. Emperor Wen smiled. Lin Feng was surprised and angered when he heard Emperor Wen say that. Chapter 1834. Come to Jiang'a tomorrow. Lin Feng looked back at Emperor Wen calmly. Back then, Lin Feng's teachers and Emperor Wen had joined hands. Back then, Emperor Wen was warm and friendly. Now, he had power in the central part of Ba Huang, and sounded different. Lin Feng was surprised. Back then, had the One clan just used Tiantai? The One clan used to be similar to the Sikong clan and the Qi clan. They also depended on the 9 great celestial castles of Qingdi Mountain. Lin Feng was convinced that back then, the One clan knew about the Qi clan's situation. Lin Feng had many doubts when it came to the Celestial One Castle and the One clan, especially when the leader of the Celestial One Castle had chosen to join hands with Qingdi Mountain to fight against Tiantai. Lin Feng had then decided to destroy the Celestial One Castle. I would, but I don't think you deserve it. Lin Feng smiled indifferently. Emperor Wen's smile became a little forced as he said, Lin Feng, bring me to the Sword Emperor. The One clan admires him. We want to go and greet him. The Sikong clan also wants to greet the Sword Emperor, said the emperor of the Sikong clan coldly. Lin Feng didn't like the Sikong clan, but now they had seen that something had broken through the small world, so they wanted to see Emperor Wu Tianjian. What had happened to him? Lin Feng looked at them, his eyes glittering, and said, Piss off. When Emperor Sikong and Emperor Wen heard Lin Feng, they were stupefied. Emperor Wen said icily, Lin Feng, the Wen clan has always been polite to you, and now you dare insult elders? It seems that your 2 teachers have failed in your education. Emperor Wen released ice-cold cosmic energies, making the air whistle. He said icily, After so many years, you haven't broken through to the Huangqi layer. If your teachers were here, what would they think of you? You're a disgrace. Emperor Wen waved his hands and cosmic energies surrounded his body. A cage of empty space energies surrounded him. If he attacked Lin Feng, perhaps Emperor Wu Tianjian would come out? Empty space strength surrounded Lin Feng. Emperor Wen waved his hands again, and the energies became even more oppressive. However, Lin Feng's expression didn't change at all. He just looked at Emperor Wen icily, his eyes filled with death chi. Emperor Wen was surprised. You want to die? Lin Feng spat icily. Emperor Wen dared criticize his teachers. Lin Feng was furious. He jumped forwards and released powerful energies which crushed down on Emperor Wen. Emperor Wen's expression changed drastically. Those energies were truly frightening. You! Emperor Wen was completely astonished. Who said I hadn't broken through to the Huangqi layer? Continued Lin Feng icily. Emperor Wen's heart twitched. Death cosmic energy pierced through his body and he turned gray. His life was being drained out. Empty space cosmic energies surrounded Emperor Wen. Space around him bent and twisted. He wanted to retreat, but he saw that Lin Feng was moving faster than him. Lin Feng waved his hands. A gigantic hand came out of nowhere and slapped Emperor Wen's cheeks. The slap was so hard that Emperor Wen fell down on his knees, completely humiliated. Everybody around them was astonished. Emperor Wen hadn't withstood a single attack. He must be an emperor. The members of the Sikong clan and the One clan were astonished, humiliated too. Young master. The members of Jiang'a were also amazed. Their young master had broken through to the Huangqi layer. Lin Feng the genius had come back. Emperor Wen hadn't withstood a single attack. Who could compete with him in Bahuang those days? Young master was just hiding his cultivation level, whispered Jianmu. Jiang'a's people clenched their fists. They remembered what Lin Feng had told them. Jiang'a was going to rule over Bahuang. Lin Feng sounded very self-confident for a reason. He didn't need their ancestors' help for this. Emperor Wen wanted to stand up, but Lin Feng jumped and landed on him, like a mountain coming down. A powerful strength flew throughout his body. Die! Emperor Wen's face turned deathly pale. Thunder shook the air as a gigantic hand appeared in the sky and crashed into Lin Feng. However, nothing happened. Lin Feng remained motionless. Emperor Wen's stomach kept twitching as he started shaking violently. His cosmic energies were ineffective against Lin Feng. The others were stupefied too. Cosmic energy attacks were useless against Lin Feng? How strong had Lin Feng become? You want my teachers to educate me? Lin Feng stated icily. His voice made Emperor Wen's heart beat even faster. Emperor Wen's eyes were twinkling before he smiled and said, Lin Feng, my boy, I had thought that you had stopped practicing cultivation, so I had to be strict with you. Don't be angry. Ah! Emperor Wen gave out a horrible shriek. Crackling sounds spread in the air. Lin Feng had stomped on his body and broken many of his bones. Lin Feng, my boy, who do you think you are? Swore Lin Feng icily. He said indifferently, tomorrow, all the cultivators of the Zunqi layer and above from the One clan and the Sikong clan, come to Jiang'a. If you dare to disobey, you will have to bear the responsibilities. Following which, Lin Feng kicked Emperor Wen again and broke more of his bones. Emperor Wen, an emperor all people admired in the small world, was being humiliated like an insect by Lin Feng. Piss off! Shouted Lin Feng, glancing at the people from the One and Sikong clans. The emperor of the Sikong clan didn't even dare look Lin Feng in the eyes. His heart was pounding in fear. In the Sikong clan, apart from him, only Sikong Shao had broken through to the Huangqi layer. Emperor Wen couldn't even withstand a single attack anymore against Lin Feng. No wonder he had amazed the whole region of Bahuang. He was too strong. Let's go. The members of the Sikong clan and the One clan didn't waste any time. Emperor Wen was injured, so some people had to help him walk and fly. They kept thinking about what Lin Feng had said, that they had to come back to Jiang'a tomorrow, with all their cultivators of the Zunqi layer and higher. Jiang'a's people were stunned. Lin Feng had become so strong. No wonder that he had just told them that Jiang'a was the new ruler of Bahuang. Young master, the One clan also has a medium-level emperor, Jianmu warned Lin Feng. After all, there was a huge difference between low-level emperors and medium-level emperors. I understand, Lin Feng replied calmly, his face indifferent. We'll see them tomorrow. Lin Feng walked away. Jiang'a's people looked after him, even more surprised. Their young master didn't fear medium-level emperors? Was he strong enough to defeat such cultivators too? After Lin Feng left Jiang'a, he went to a restaurant in Sword City. That was also the first place he had ever been to in Sword City, before heading to Fortune City. Back then, the Imperial Assassin Union's members had broken it, but it had been rebuilt. In the restaurant, Hu Yu Mu Lin Shui, Qing Feng, and Wu were waiting. They were just waiting for Lin Feng, unlike Jun Mo Shi and the others, who actually had things to do there. Qin Wu, Tan Tai, and the others guarded their base back in the 9 great celestial castles. When Lin Feng arrived, he sat down at the table and said to Wu, Wu, you'll be coming with me. Wu looked back at Lin Feng angrily, but didn't refuse. We're going to the Xiao Yao sect in the central part of Bahuang. We'll tell their patriarch about tomorrow, and make them come to Jiang'a, Lin Feng told him. When they heard that, the clients of the restaurant all glanced at Lin Feng. They looked amused. Was that guy joking? He wanted to make the patriarch come to Jiang'a? Even though those young people looked extremely strong, they probably couldn't compete with the patriarch of the Xiao Yao sect. What was their social status? Wu groaned, but still stood up and left the restaurant with Lin Feng. Lin Feng was convinced that Wu could help him sort this out. People in the restaurant were surprised when they saw Wu follow Lin Feng. One of them asked Lin Feng, "Your Excellency, you seem incredibly strong for your age. Where do you come from?" Lin Feng smiled at him and said, "I'm a nobody." A nobody? Someone who dares give orders to the patriarch of the Xiaoyao sect? In Ba Huang, there are very strong young people too, Shui Bagio, Feng Ling Si Kong Xiao. As I see it, you must be Lin Feng who left Ba Huang back then. Especially since you want to make those people come to Jiang'a. Lin Feng. The crowd was stunned and frowned as they recalled those events. Even though Lin Feng had left for many years, they still remembered Lin Feng. Lin Feng looked surprised. Some people still remembered him. Chapter 1835. Destruction. Lin Feng smiled and said, "If you think so, maybe." Lin Feng didn't admit he was Lin Feng, nor did he deny it. The atmosphere became silent in the restaurant. That young man was maybe Lin Feng? "Teacher, who's Lin Feng?" a young man asked his teacher. Lin Feng had disappeared from the small world for many years. People who were around 20 years old didn't know about Lin Feng. People who were 30 and older all knew him though. One of the 11 disciples of Tiantai, a powerful genius. He had crushed many people during the meeting of the emperors. He had also killed the princes of Tianlong Divine Castle. He also slaughtered many people from the Qi clan. 10 years ago, he amazed the whole region. He was also one of the 10 strongest young cultivators of Ba Huang. Explained the elder to the young man staring at Lin Feng. "Teacher, there were many geniuses in the previous generation. Lin Feng was that strong." The young man was stupefied. He didn't even dare look at Lin Feng. Lin Feng was wearing clean white clothes. There was no qi around him. However, he did look enigmatic and unfathomable. They couldn't see how strong he was. They couldn't see how strong the two women next to him were either. If he's really Lin Feng, he must have come back from the great world, and he must be incredibly strong. No wonder he dares say he wants to make the patriarch of the Xiaoyao sect come to Jiang'a, mused the elder. They would know if they were right tomorrow. Would the patriarch of the Xiaoyao sect come to Jiang'a? In the restaurant, people kept talking about him. Lin Feng just left. On the day after, at the same time, many people came to watch. The fact that Lin Feng wanted some people to come to Jiang'a had already spread everywhere. At that moment in the distance, a group of people arrived. They weren't from the Xiaoyao sect, however. Emperor Si Kong, Emperor 1, as well as people from their respective clans, thought the crowd. Those people all landed in front of Jiang'a together. The medium-level emperor of the one clan is there too. Does it have anything to do with the beam of light we saw yesterday? Maybe Emperor Wu Tianjian has come back, thought the crowd. The patriarch of the Xiaoyao sect is coming too. But he's alone, thought the crowd after they saw someone in the distance. That person seemed very agile, as he was using the Xiaoyao agility technique. Some other people appeared in Jiang'a too, Jianmu and the others. They looked at the crowd. Wen clan, Sikong clan, Xiaoyao sect, 3 powerful groups from the central part of Ba Huang. Because Emperor Wu Tianjian had stopped caring about Jiang'a, Jiang'a hadn't been able to oppress and compete with them. "Lin Feng, my boy, we're here, you can come out," said the medium-level emperor of the Wen clan firmly. Making them come to Jiang'a, Lin Feng was quite audacious. But he had spent time in the great world, so he probably knew that behind the Wen clan, there was the celestial Wen castle. Lin Feng couldn't compete with such people, unless Emperor Wu Tianjian appeared. A gigantic sword appeared. Lin Feng and Wu were standing upon it. When the patriarch of the Xiaoyao sect saw Wu, his mouth twitched. That bastard was an unruly and obstinate animal. On the day before, he had been humiliated by Wu. "Is everybody here?" Lin Feng asked calmly. "We're all here." "Lin Feng, my boy, why did you make us come?" asked Emperor Wen's father coldly. There were 2 other emperors next to him. One of them was Emperor 1, and the other one was a stunningly beautiful woman. Wen'eo Shui wasn't pretending to be a man anymore. She still enjoyed wearing clean white clothes though, as she was quite seductive in a beautiful white skirt. When you pretended to be a man, you were already more beautiful than women. Now you're still more beautiful than most women, complimented Lin Feng, smiling at Wen'eo Shui. and ignoring Emperor Wen's father. You preferred me when I was wearing men's clothes? Wen Ao Shui asked cutely. I prefer you as a woman, of course, replied Lin Feng calmly. Wen Ao Shui giggled and said, I'm happy if you like me this way. However, Lin Feng shook his head and said, At least now, you're showing your true colors. When Ao Shui's smile stiffened, Lin Feng asked her, You're the second assassin of the Imperial Assassin Union, aren't you? When Ao Shui was rendered speechless and looked at Lin Feng strangely, Lin Feng already knew the answer. When Ao Shui is a member of the Imperial Assassin Union? Many people were shocked and frowned, especially people who were older. You deceived me a few times back then, said Lin Feng, closing his eyes and sighing. They had studied together. When Ao Shui hadn't helped when Duan Wuya and the others had attacked him and his friends. But it didn't matter, as after all, when Ao Shui and Lin Feng weren't related by blood. However, Yin Yuping Sheng was her teacher, and even though when Ao Shui regretted it, she was a member of the Wen clan. Everything about the Wen clan seemed fake now. When Ao Shui looked petrified, Lin Feng sighed again. She could sense that Lin Feng was sad and said, Lin Feng, even now, I am still your friend. Nothing can ruin our friendship. Impossible, shouted someone icily at that moment. An ice-cold energy rose as someone in a golden robe appeared. That person's voice sounded like the voice of a demon. Jun Emoshi. When Ao Shui was stupefied, Jun Emoshi had come back to Bahuang too? Emoshi, what's wrong? Lin Feng asked Jun Emoshi. There was a beautiful woman next to Jun Emoshi, Xiao Dai. She looked wan and sallow, even as she stared at the members of the Wen clan icily. The Wen clan and the Palace of Medicinal Kings destroyed the Celestial Palace of the Immortals, said Jun Emoshi icily. Lin Feng shivered and closed his eyes. The Wen clan is going to disappear from Bahuang. When Ao Shui started shaking, Emperor Wen's father looked at Lin Feng icily. Ridiculous, Lin Feng. Even if you were strong enough to destroy the Wen clan, you probably understand that you can't offend the Celestial Wen Castle. The Celestial Wen Castle ceased existing a while ago now, spat Wu icily. Emperor Wen's father was stupefied. He could only look back at Wu and say, Who do you think you are? Empty words. You're ridiculous. Wu raised his hands and threw himself at Emperor Wen's father as blinding suns burned into existence. Emperor Wen's father frowned and released empty space cosmic energies, his robe fluttering in the wind, throwing himself at Wu. Their energies collided with a crash. Sun cosmic energies penetrated into Emperor Wen's father's hands and corroded his body, driving him backwards. His expression had changed completely. Wu's physical strength and cosmic energies were powerful. He can resist a medium-level emperor. The crowd was stunned. Jun Emoshi released powerful hell strength, which descended from the sky. Then he jumped forwards looking like a demon. He punched out, and the air started shaking. The members of the Wen clan were all surrounded by ice-cold strength, and started freezing. Die, said Jun Emoshi icily. All the members of the Wen clan started dying one after another. People's expressions changed drastically. How come these people were so strong? When Ao Shui was astonished, she looked at Lin Feng and asked, Has the Celestial Wen Castle really been destroyed? I rebuilt Tiantai in the 9 great celestial castles. The Celestial Wen Castle was the first group who tried to fight against us. I took some people there and killed the rest. The Celestial Qi Castle and the Palace of Medicinal Kings don't exist anymore, either, Lin Feng replied calmly. When Ao Shui's face turned deathly pale, Wu and Jun Emoshi dared kill people from the Wen clan. They didn't fear them at all. They could even defeat medium-level emperors. When Ao Shui looked desperate, she had never thought that Lin Feng and his friends would rise so quickly. The crowd didn't understand what was happening. It was like a dream. The Wen clan was a powerful group in the central part of Bahuang, and now, those young people were crushing them? A powerful strength bombarded Wen Ao Shui. She coughed up blood and was driven backwards in Lin Feng's direction. Lin Feng was startled, as Wen Ao Shui didn't try to fight back. Since you're telling me that the Celestial Wen Castle has been destroyed, I believe you. I just have one last request. I want you to kill me, said Wen Ao Shui, smiling desperately. Lin Feng glanced at Jun Emoshi. who lowered his hands and released a destructive strength which corroded Wen Aoshue's body. She was still smiling as she softly collapsed into Lin Feng's arms. Lin Feng caught her. Wen Aoshue smiled and said, "My life was miserable, but the most beautiful thing that could ever happen was to die in your arms," as she closed her eyes. Chapter 1836. Tianlong's 10th Prince Lin Feng looked at the beautiful woman in his arms, her eyes now closed. She was dead. Lin Feng wasn't happy at all. He felt extremely saddened by this turn of events. They had known each other in Shuiyu. Back then they were very young. They had chosen different paths. He knew that when Aoshui wasn't sorry, she hadn't helped him. She was just heartless. But sometimes heartless people also had feelings and emotions. And her final wish was to die in his arms. At least they didn't crush her. Her corpse was intact. This was her fate. The battle continued. Jun Emoshi and Wu were astonishingly strong. They could easily kill Zun cultivators. Even Emperor Wen had died. His father was badly injured and probably wouldn't be able to resist much longer. The powerful Wen clan was being destroyed. The Sikong clan's strong cultivators looked furious. Sikong Xiao among them. When he saw all this, he was astonished. He had come thinking he would show how strong he was, but Jun Mo she was immensely strong. And so was that young man named Wu. Wu even obeyed Lin Feng, so how strong was Lin Feng? Very quickly, the members of the Wen clan were all slaughtered. Jun Emoshi's Helchi was powerful. He turned around to look at Lin Feng, who was still holding Wen Aoshui. Jun Emoshi's icy energies suddenly disappeared. He sighed and said to Lin Feng, "Lin Feng, take her body back to the Wen clan." "All right," Lin Feng nodded. He turned around and looked at the leaders of the Sikong clan and the Xiaoyao sect, saying, "The celestial Sikong castle is now Tiantai's. Even though we used to be enemies, since the celestial Sikong castle is now under the jurisdiction of Tiantai, I'm not going to destroy you." Lin Feng looked at Wen Aoshui in his arms while talking. He looked depressed and dispirited. He didn't care about the Sikong clan. "Kneel down and make a vow. From now on, you will obey Jianga," said Lin Feng indifferently. The members of the Sikong clan frowned. Kneel down. Make a vow. Obey Jianga? Was that the price they had to pay for Lin Feng to forgive them? "They have 5 seconds. Wu, if they refuse, kill them all," said Lin Feng. Then, he turned around and looked at the patriarch of the Xiaoyao sect. "You don't need to kneel down. Just make a vow." Lin Feng rose up into the air and said, "From now on, Jianga rules over the region." After making a vow, Wu will take the leaders of the Sikong clan and the Xiaoyao sect to the Palace of Medicinal Kings. "You're going to destroy the Palace of Medicinal Kings." Then Lin Feng disappeared. In one sentence, Lin Feng changed the situation of the whole territory. The Sikong clan and the Xiaoyao sect had to obey Jianga and destroy the Palace of Medicinal Kings. Jianga now ruled over the region. Lin Feng left, and so did Jun Emoshi. Wu was in charge of the Sikong clan. They had to make a vow, and so did the patriarch of the Xiaoyao sect. Finally, Jianga's people started feeling powerful. Jianga was rising again. Even though they were now the rulers of the region, at least of the central part of Bahuang, Lin Feng couldn't stay there all the time. The 2 emperors and the Zun cultivators of the Wen clan were dead. That was enough. At least, Lin Feng didn't want to kill more people. If Jun Emoshi wanted to, he was free to kill more people. But Jun Emoshi wasn't a mad murderer either. Killing the Wen clan was enough to avenge the celestial palace of the immortals. Besides, he had told Lin Feng himself to take Wen Aoshue's body back to the Wen clan. After bringing her body back to the Wen clan, Lin Feng didn't head back to Jianga. He took out his boat and headed to the northern part of Bahuang. He didn't need to worry about Jianga anymore. The Sword Emperor had recovered. Wu was going to take care of the Palace of Medicinal Kings. Lin Feng didn't have many things to sort out anymore in Bahuang province. That little boy had left his village and wanted to recreate Tiantai, so Lin Feng had to do something. He was going to find him. In the northern part of Bahuang, in Tianjing City, the city where Tiantai used to be, Lin Feng went to a restaurant. That restaurant was called Tianjing Restaurant. It had existed for a long time. It was one of the most famous restaurants in town. Lin Feng hoped to find some pieces of information there. Lin Feng couldn't find Xiao Chun in the northern part of Bahuang. Therefore, he could only try to find some information about him in this restaurant. At that moment, he had already been sitting in that restaurant for 4 hours and finally, he heard some people talk about Yi Chen. Tianlong's 10th prince is really strong indeed. I heard that when he was a cultivator of the very top of the Zunqi layer, at the Zun level, nobody could compete with him anymore. Now Tianlong Divine Castle's people are looking for Yi Chen. He's going to die. Indeed, the 10th prince is really strong. He will soon break through to the Huangqi layer. Maybe then he will manage to make Tianlong Divine Castle come back to life. And since Yi Chen wants to rebuild Tiantai, the 10th prince can't possibly forgive him. The people in the bar were talking. Lin Feng looked at them and asked, "Everybody back then, didn't Lin Feng kill all the princes of Tianlong Divine Castle? Where does that 10th prince come from? Are you a foreigner?" asked those people. Lin Feng smiled and nodded back. "Indeed, I just arrived in the northern part of Bahuang. Nobody knows who the 10th prince is, but he's always had a high social status in Tianlong Divine Castle. People just call him the 10th prince. Now he wants to resurrect Tianlong Divine Castle." So some former members of Tianlong Divine Castle gathered to recreate their group. Even though they're not emperors, they're really strong, especially the 10th prince who acts as their leader, smiled the speaker. Lin Feng nodded and said, "I see. And how strong is Yi Chen?" "Yi Chen is young. He's a sword cultivator. He's quite strong, and is already a cultivator of the top of the Zunqi layer. However, he probably can't compete with the 10th prince. If he encounters Tianlong's 10th prince, he's definitely going to die," replied the speaker. Lin Feng frowned and said, "Your Excellency, you said they were going to kill him. Do you know where they all are?" "I've heard that Tianlong Divine Castle had investigated and had found his village. Now they're in his village, it seems. Apparently, if Yi Chen doesn't show up, they'll destroy the village." Lin Feng looked furious. He stood up and left. The one who had just spoken gulped down his beer and watched him go. "Who is he?" The people in the restaurant were surprised at his reaction and stared after Lin Feng. Lin Feng had known Yi Chen when he was a baby. He had grown up and still remembered Lin Feng. He had even gone to Tiantai to find him. Now he wanted to rebuild Tiantai. And now Tianlong Divine Castle's people had surrounded his village and were threatening the people there. At the border between the western part of Bahuang and the northern part of Bahuang, in the village, people had stopped what they were doing, as many strong cultivators had appeared in the small village and made everyone gather by the waterfall. At the waterfall, there was a gigantic stone. Tianlong's 10th prince stood atop it wearing a dragon robe, looking majestic and dignified as he gazed into the distance. 2 people had appeared at that moment, and one of them was Yi Chen. "You silly little boy, why did you come back? Leave now," said someone on the ground. Yi Chen shouted, "Master! Go away, you don't belong here anymore," said his master at that moment. However, someone punched him violently, and he coughed up blood. "Stop shouting, moron," swore the member of Tianlong Divine Castle icily. "Stop," shouted Yi Chen furiously. The master had a very important position in the village. He was everybody's teacher in the village. "You should worry about your own life," sneered the 10th prince, as dragon energies invaded the atmosphere. "You're so weak, and you think you can make Tiantai come back to life?" Now Tianlong Divine Castle rules over the western part of Bahuang and the northern part of Bahuang. Ridiculous, Tiantai destroyed Tianlong Divine Castle a long time ago. If Uncle Lin Feng were here, he would crush you. You wouldn't even dare stay here, retorted Yi Chen icily. "Uncle Lin Feng? Ridiculous. Since when do you know Lin Feng?" "Unfortunately, I was born too late. If I had been born a few years before, Lin Feng would have never dared act that arrogantly in Bahuang," retorted the 10th prince, releasing a powerful bestial qi. Dragon scales appeared around his body. He had the dragon transformation ability of Tianlong Divine Castle. Uncle Lin Feng killed the 9 other princes. If he were here, You wouldn't dare act that arrogantly, laughed Yi Chen, smiling coldly. Even if he were here now, I'd kill him, swore the 10th prince furiously and loudly. His bestial chi had surrounded Yi Chen. Is that so? Said another voice at that moment. The 10th prince frowned and glanced around. Who was talking to him? That you're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.